Lord of Mysteries, The Arrival of the New Black Emperor by author Huo Yang. Chapter 766-770. Swallowing the Uncertain Mist. Uncertain Mist was a bit flustered by the creator's fluid attack, primarily because it had no idea what the creator's intentions were. By the time Uncertain Mist reacted, it had already been pulled in by the country of the Anarchy, the largest black hole in the universe. However, it wasn't panicked and once again sent a wisp of its gray mist to the creator, but due to the black hole's immense suction, it only slightly relaxed its control over the gray mist before most of it was sucked away. For Uncertain Mist, this wasn't entirely a bad thing. The more it sacrificed in the upcoming transaction, the more it could transact for. Taking advantage of the fact that it hadn't been completely sucked into the black hole yet, Uncertain Mist once again engaged in a forced transaction with the creator, using the gray mist as a price to exchange for its escape from the black hole. It once again managed to break free from the black hole through an unfair transaction. At this moment, a sacred judgment sound came from the black hole. This transaction is merely one party's will, so it is invalid. Although Uncertain Mist possesses the authority to supervise transactions from outside the transaction, the creator also has the authority of judgment. Although the creator's judgment did not return Uncertain Mist to its original position, Uncertain Mist returned to the range of gravity. The surrounding Old Ones and half-Old Ones were also affected by the immense gravitational pull, having to both resist the immense pull and fight. Uncertain Mist exchanged the immense gravitational pull it was experiencing with the Evernight Goddess, attempting to escape the black hole. The Evernight Goddess, however, was no longer affected by the black hole because of this. This was an error. It was the Fool's authority. At this time, the Fool began to temporarily hand over the Mother Goddess of Depravity to Lilith, according to the Creator's plan. Although he knew Lilith wouldn't last long, the Creator's plan would soon be revealed. The Fool allowed the black hole's gravity to attract him. As he fell towards the center of the black hole, he fooled Uncertain Mist. Uncertain Mist, just about to utilize its authority to escape the black hole's pull again, suddenly froze, its intelligence instantly dropping to a worrying level. The creator's doppelganger took advantage of this moment to exile Uncertain Mist towards the center of the black hole. Uncertain Mist returned to the position with immense gravitational pull. At this time, due to its decreased intelligence, it made a foolish response, summoning its Sephira to alter the rules of gravity, giving itself a chance to escape. The reason this action was extremely foolish is that the gravitational pull of the Earth part of the country of disorder, and the starry sky part is no less than that of the black hole. Therefore, in previous battles, Uncertain Mist would utilize its divine kingdom to contend with the creator but would not utilize its Sephira for combat, to avoid, unconsciously, getting too close to the creator. The creator also very incooperatively used the country of the Anarchy, because at that time, he was not yet ready to devour Uncertain Mist. After Uncertain Mist's Sephira appeared, it rushed towards the center of the black hole at an even faster speed. At this moment, the starry sky not far away suddenly became illusory, and a white ball of light appeared from the illusion. In the very center of the light ball, there was a black eye symbol. For the Fool and other Earth Old Ones, this was a very unfamiliar symbol, somewhat resembling a mystical symbol of an eye in shape, but with clear differences, the biggest being that the symbol representing the pupil had two parts. This was the high-dimensional overseer. It had been observing the battle from the very beginning. Seeing that Uncertain Mist was in great danger, it decided to intervene and rescue it. Almost at the instant it appeared, many polygonal crystals with starlight appeared around Uncertain Mist. These crystals were surprisingly unaffected by the strong gravitational pull. And in the immense gravity and the aggregated power of Beander characteristics, a phantom space was formed, intending to take Uncertain Mist away from its current dimension. The creator, at the center of the black hole, immediately altered gravity, causing the black hole's gravity to also affect other dimensions. Regardless of the dimension, the effect of gravity exists. The reason those crystals were not affected by gravity at first was because they were between other dimensions and the three-dimensional space. In 3 dimensions, the positions of those crystals appeared to be within the range of immense gravity, but in other dimensions, their specific corresponding positions were uncertain. It's like drawing a circle on paper. If there were two-dimensional creatures on the paper, those inside the circle would be unable to escape it. However, for a three-dimensional being with height, let alone drawing a circle on paper, even drawing a thick, large circle on the ground, one could easily jump out, and it wouldn't matter even if one stepped on the drawn line. What the creator changed was that objects in other dimensions could also collapse towards the black hole under the influence of super-large gravity. At the same time, below the high-dimensional overseer, a dark spring suddenly appeared, but these spring waters were very viscous and somewhat illusory, lacking any of the spirituality that spring water should have. According to the plan, Farbati entered the battle at this time, buying the creator the last window of opportunity. Currently, Farbati has also found and merged with the earth portion of the tenebrous world. After the cosmic dark side was eliminated by the creator, his condition improved significantly. And he found clues to the earth part of the tenebrous world in the abyss. However, the abyss had undergone considerable mutation under the influence of the mother tree of desire. The creator helped Farbati restore the normal order of the abyss and used the clues within to find the entrance to the tenebrous world. So now, demon monarch Farbati is also at the level of a half-old one, but since the mother tree of desire has already manifested the tenebrous world, Farbati chose to utilize his abyss pathway abilities to stall the high-dimensional overseer. At this moment, the high-dimensional overseer slowly fell towards the black, viscous, spring water, as if it were the origin of fallen. Any conscious life form would show a tendency to fall. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the creator quickly sucked the high-dimensional overseer's polygonal crystals around uncertain mist into the black hole's event horizon. The fooled, uncertain mist was finally sucked into the black hole's core, disappearing from outside view. At this moment, the old ones and half-old ones in battle felt a new gaze, as if they were being stared at by hungry monsters. Everyone realized that other outer gods were arriving. At this time, in the god-forsaken land, Adam walked out of the true creator's divine kingdom. At this point, his fusion with the true creator was largely complete, but the final stage was extremely difficult. Behind Adam, the phantom of 5 heads could still be seen. When he stopped Klein from becoming a god before, he interrupted the fusion process once, and it took a long time to restart the fusion. At this time, he once again interrupted the fusion process, making complete fusion even more difficult. However, Adam still summoned the Chaos Sea again, which seemed to contain all colors and possibilities. Standing on the sea, he once again imagined the authorities of the Sun, White Tower, and Tyrant, transforming into a tall light figure. He said to the starry sky, "Let there be light." The intense sunlight seemed to completely illuminate the entire universe. The old ones rushing towards the battle deep in the universe were shocked by the strong light, and the outer god's journey to the battlefield was interrupted. The creator, inside the black hole, of course, knew that the situation was extremely critical, and the ancient sun god could only block those old ones for a few seconds. Furthermore, the creator had not asked the ancient sun god for help, and his intervention at this critical moment was somewhat unexpected. But it also seemed to be within expectations, just as Hobert said before, the root of the conflict between the creator and the fool and the ancient sun god lay in Amen. Now that Amen is completely out of the Lord of the Mysteries, their conflict is not that deep anymore. This was the last opportunity. The creator raced against time to absorb the country of disorder, part within uncertain mist. The next moment, the fooling on uncertain mist disappeared. It seemed to suddenly regain its senses, seeing itself in a brilliant nebula. It turned out that inside the black hole, there was another world entirely. Amidst the sacred light, there was a majestic and magnificent figure. That figure wore Atlantis-style clothing and had Hobert's appearance, but it gave the impression that he merely possessed Hobert's likeness, yet seemed to lack any biological emotions. In the holy light, the creator wore a crown, holding a scepter in one hand and a bronze codex in the other. That sacred appearance seemed to make one want to hum hymns. Even gods would exclaim, "Great Holy Spirit." This was the anarchy ultimate form that the creator had comprehended after becoming very familiar with his own power over the past 3 years. The process of entering the black hole just now had completely shattered uncertain mist. Under the aggregation law of Beyander characteristics and the acceleration of the creator's abilities, uncertain mist's Beyander characteristics had been sealed by the creator. Now came the most difficult part, extracting the Sephira from uncertain mist. Even if its body was shattered and its Beyonder characteristics were taken away, uncertain mist could survive and thrive by using its illusory, non-physical Sephira. Only by using the earth part of the country of disorder, to suck out the starry sky part of the country of disorder, could uncertain mist drop in level. This was a method that the creator and the fool deemed feasible after multiple discussions. And the method of directly devouring uncertain mist, as the jinn mentioned before, was clearly not feasible. In that case, even if the creator became stronger, his consciousness would become a patchwork monster, just like Antigonus. When uncertain mist regained its senses, it found that its country of the anarchy, under the attraction of another country of the anarchy, had already manifested from the void, with half of it having entered the real world. Uncertain mist quickly fought for its own country of the anarchy, but soon it realized that it lacked Beyonder characteristics to support it. Just like having unsteady feet in a tug of war, without much strength, it simply couldn't snatch it from the creator. Even so, it struggled to hold on, delaying for one more second if possible. It knew very well that the creator was even more anxious than it was at this moment. More and more old ones were arriving, and if they waited another 2 or 3 seconds, the old one forces on Earth would definitely be besieged. In an instant, the creator made a choice. He completely released the country of disorder part within him. The gravitational pull between the previously torn apart country of disorder parts suddenly surged and quickly began to merge. 1 second, 2 seconds. The country of disorder in the starry sky part and the country of disorder in the earth part quickly intertwined. The creator used his remaining sanity to stop maintaining the super large black hole. This was a signal to retreat. The fool and other half-old ones immediately unleashed their strongest attacks, temporarily forcing back the mother goddess of depravity, mother tree of desire, and high-dimensional overseer. They left the battlefield first, followed by the creator, who was a step slower but also successfully returned inside the barrier. And the consciousness and spirit body of uncertain mist transformed into an extremely high-level evil spirit. From then on, he, without a physical body, would wander in the universe until the end of the universe. For the creator, only devouring the country of disorder, and not the spirit body and consciousness of uncertain mist, was a very crucial step. As mentioned before, this could effectively avoid becoming a mental patchwork. Although it carried great risks, it was well worth it. The creator would even rather abandon the starry sky part of the country of disorder than devour it along with the consciousness of uncertain mist. In that case, the weakened, uncertain mist would likely be attacked by other outer gods, and the starry sky part of the country of disorder would change hands. The creator would very likely be completely unrelated to this Sephira. Back on Earth, the creator had no time to thank his allies. He immediately returned to his mausoleum to digest the Sephira he had just accommodated. Although that was also a country of disorder, it had been split for a long time, approaching a Sephira of adjacent authority. However, compared to the authority of adjacent pathways, it had more affinity and was the kind of Sephira that was very easy to digest. Even so, the creator's mind seemed to suffer a huge impact. It felt as if someone had hit his head, making him very dizzy, and he could only maintain a certain degree of sanity by forcing himself. Only after returning to his mausoleum, which had sufficiently stable anchors, did his condition improve slightly. In fact, the optimal outcome of this operation was to extract the starry sky part of the country of disorder, but not accommodate it immediately, and seal the evil spirit of uncertain mist, to avoid future troubles. However, the situation was urgent at the time, so he could only absorb the Sephira first, and there was no time to deal with the evil spirit of uncertain mist. At this time, the original country of disorder within the creator's body also suffered a huge impact. The previous fairyland-like scene became fragmented, and the avatars who were not evacuated in time underwent some mutations, hoping to form a union to gain some rights. At the same time, the space of the country of disorder seemed to have doubled, but the creator felt a significant weakening of his control over the country of disorder. This state was very strange. It was clearly a state of accommodating the Sephira, but the degree of utilization of the Sephira was not as good as before absorbing the starry sky part of the country of disorder. The creator suppressed the uncontrolled parts within the country of disorder, while searching for the root of the problem. As more and more stable anchors took effect, the creator's state became increasingly stable, which allowed his sanity to recover further. He soon realized that the current state of the country of disorder was only complete in terms of quantity, but to truly become complete, it still needed to be reconstructed. Otherwise, the country of disorder would always feel like a stomach that hadn't eaten for days and had drunk too much water, always feeling very full, but at the same time feeling very hungry. Andrew and Hobert continued to work in the office after learning that the creator had successfully returned. A few minutes later, a small commotion suddenly came from outside, along with the sound of rushing water. Hobert was a little strange and looked out the window. Outside was a rushing river, and not far away, there was a huge waterfall cascading down. Hobert was slightly stunned. How did a river and a waterfall suddenly appear in the palace? Because he didn't sense any danger, Hobert unhurriedly opened the door to check. It turned out that it wasn't a river and a waterfall appearing in the palace, but his office, along with the corridor outside, had arrived next to a large river and a large waterfall. Hobert became even stranger. Why did he suddenly appear here when he didn't feel any Beyonder attack? He then spread his spirituality and realized that he was still within the Atlantis Empire. So he, distortion, his position along with the office, preparing to return to Anju. But after using distortion, he was still in the same place. Hobert was very surprised. It felt as if he suddenly no longer possessed Beyonder abilities. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down, and suddenly thought that it was very likely due to the creator's actions today that his Beyonder abilities had undergone a mutation. At this moment, the river water suddenly surged, overflowing the riverbank. Hobert immediately realized that his ability had some delay and was only now taking effect, but it had clearly mutated. Distortion, his own position had turned into alter the river water from 1, 2, 2. The river water immediately entered the office. Hobert dared not utilize his ability again. He then prayed to the fool for help, but he found that he seemed to have no connection with the fool. In other words, at this time, his Beyonder power and spirituality had become extremely abnormal. At this moment, he couldn't even pray to the gods. So Hobert said to the guards outside, "Quickly take me out of here." The guards, of course, knew that the emperor was the creator's favored one, said to have the rank of archangel. But they only paused for a moment, then immediately reacted. One of the guards, who held a travel ability sealed artifact, waded through the water and ran over to take Hobert away first. But at this time, Hobert looked through the corridor window and saw a village not far downstream in the riverbed. At this time, the villagers did not know that the flood had arrived. Hobert immediately changed his mind. First, go and inform the villagers in the village below to leave immediately. Then he said to the guards, run to higher ground. The guard holding the travel ability sealed artifact hesitated for a moment, but still followed the order and immediately took Hobert to that village. Amidst their shouts, many villagers quickly hid in higher places. Hobert held 2 children who were not yet good at running, and the guard carried an old man with inconvenient legs and feet. They also narrowly escaped the flood without incident. Arriving at a slightly higher position, Hobert looked at the destroyed village, then at the village downstream, and said to the guard, "Continue to save people." Inside the Black Emperor's mausoleum, the creator quickly thought of a solution to the problem. Utilize the order clock to reconstruct the country of disorder. Without further ado, the illusory order clock appeared before him and quickly solidified. Dong. As the melodious bell rang in the mausoleum, the creator felt his mind become clearer, and at the same time, the country of disorder was instantly twisted into a ball by the bell, and the scene inside instantly shattered. Like when he first accommodated the country of disorder, it became a void, and then began to reconstruct. The reconstruction was very fast, and soon there were mountains, flowing water, and a divine kingdom. All the avatars who were previously in the country of disorder also disappeared. Their union ultimately did not form. The creator carefully tidied every corner of the country of disorder. After about half a minute, he finally regained control of the country of disorder, making this Sephira complete again. The creator then realized that the power of the country of disorder had greatly increased, and at the same time, he gained a new ability. He could restore the target to its original state, and the original state must always be a state of chaos. The theory of this ability is that it can instantly find the oldest end of that string related to the target in the order shadow and display it. The outward manifestation of this ability is that it can turn a person into the atoms that compose him, which is equivalent to an enhanced version of entropy attack. This is no longer tracing back to the beginning of life, but tracing back to the origin of all the matter that composes this life. Another application is to stripping the target's Beander characteristic, or to make the target's Beander characteristic undergo chaos. The former can turn the target into an ordinary person, while the latter is very likely to make the target kill himself. This is because in the very beginning, all Beander characteristics belong to the original creator, so using this ability is equivalent to stripping the current owner's right to utilize the Beander characteristic. And the Beander characteristics in the beginning were more difficult to control than now, so the Beander characteristics would appear chaos. Of course, as the target's level increases, the stripping time will decrease, and targets at the old one level will also have some means of evasion. This ability can be called restoration, or it can be called chaos. Considering the name, Son of Chaos, the creator finally decided to call it chaos. This is an ability that appeared only after the country of disorder was complete, and it should also be one of the authorities of the complete Son of Chaos. But at present, for the creator, this is only an ability, not yet an authority. The internal structure of this ability is still a kind of the anarchy, but its external manifestation is already significantly different from abilities like distortion and prohibition. Finally, the creator looked at the characteristics of uncertain mist that he had sealed. He could feel that these characteristics had a very strong imprint of uncertain mist, and there was currently no corresponding ritual that could neutralize the impact when accommodating uniqueness. In other words, it could only be swallowed raw. The creator sighed, intending to recover his state before taking further action. Hobert, who was fighting the flood, suddenly felt something. He used his Beander ability to alter the flood, and the river immediately returned to its original state. Hobert then used his Beander ability to restore the flooded village and fields. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Beander is truly wonderful." Above the true creator's divine kingdom in the God-forsaken land, Angel of Fate, Ouroboros, who was devoutly praying, suddenly looked up. A majestic figure appeared above the divine kingdom without any warning. Ouroboros's eyes narrowed. That was the creator. Then, the creator summoned a giant bronze bell. Dong. The distant bell sound resonated throughout the entire God-forsaken land, and for a time, the Beander order here returned to normal. Adam and the true creator in the black curtain seized this opportunity to complete their final fusion. The shadow with 5 heads completely merged into Adam's body. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. The founder accommodates the third path. Hobert brought his office back to Anju's palace. After returning, he discovered that not only had his office mysteriously left its original location, but the entire palace seemed to have been dismembered by some force and scattered across the country. Hobert retrieved them one by one and reassembled them like building blocks. The palace staff were all startled. Hobert briefly explained what had just happened to the 2 queens and asked Audrey to provide psychological counseling to the staff. Starting about 2 years ago, after signing a confidentiality agreement, the palace staff were no longer kept in the dark about the occasional Beander events occurring in the palace. Otherwise, constantly hypnosis them would put considerable pressure on their minds and spirits, and they might inexplicably turn into lunatics after reaching their limit. So, they simply stopped concealing it, but these messages could not be taken out of the palace. Hobert let the 2 queens manage the palace, and then he used the ability of distortion to enter the mausoleum. At this moment, the creator had just returned from the God-forsaken land. He threw a small crystal to Hobert and said, "I have some ideas and would like to ask for your opinion." Hobert caught it. He saw that it was a polygonal crystal with some starlight, but inside this crystal, there was an eyeball with blue pupils. He recalled that this was one of the dozen or so crystals of the high-dimensional overseer that the creator had sucked in with a black hole during a previous battle. The other crystals shattered upon entering the black hole, and only this one remained, and it looked very special. Hobert considered for a moment and said, "I agree with your idea." The creator nodded slowly, then brought up another matter. After the nation of disorder became complete again, I roughly understood the authority of the Son of Chaos. It is mainly about change, which can change things that have already been formed. This is changing backward. And the ability of chaos that I just acquired is actually also a kind of change, but it is changing forward. Hobert pondered for a moment and said, "It seems that the Jinn did not tell the truth before. The next authority we devour should focus on change, and has little to do with creation." The creator sat on an exquisite chair. "That's a good idea." Then he added, "Fortunately, we never fully trusted the Jinn's words." This was a sage's time, unique to the two of them. Many seemingly astonishing but not too difficult to realize plans were discussed in this way. In the northern mountains of Atlantis, an Beander team appeared here using the ability of travel. The captain, Cohen, looked at the surrounding fields. A layer of ice covered the ground, looking like it was covered in silver, a scene of winter. However, it was summer in this area. This was very unusual. The surrounding villagers had all been evacuated, and before coming here, Cohen and others had already questioned the evacuated village chiefs of several surrounding villages. According to them, this cold wave suddenly appeared last night. The villagers were woken up one by the cold, and then they were stunned by the scene before them. As the temperature continued to drop, the village chief, realizing that this was very unusual, immediately led the villagers to leave and reported the matter. So, in the early hours of today, an investigation into this Beander case had already begun. It was finally basically determined that this should be an Beander event involving a high sequence. Therefore, the demigod Cohen was sent to lead a further investigation. The team members were also elites among the official Beyonders, and they could request the support of an angel at any time. Their main task this time was to find out the source of this cold wave. By visual inspection alone, it was obvious that the ice in the mountains was thicker than in the villages below. But this time, they were very cautious and did not continue to utilize travel, but instead used the method of distortion of position to quickly approach. After reaching the top of the mountain, the cold wind howled, and snowflakes danced, a scene of a heavy snow about to fall in deep winter. On the other side of the mountain was a sparsely populated mountain area. They continuously crossed several mountains, and seemed to have found the source of all this Beander phenomenon. It was a pool at the foot of the mountain. At this time, the surface of the pool was covered with thick ice. These ice sheets were as smooth as a mirror world, and in the mirror, there seemed to be some black shadows floating. The team members' spirituality sensed danger in advance, and they all shifted their gaze, not looking at the lake surface. After glancing at it, Cohen immediately prayed to the angel Beverly. She was the chief commander of the official Beyonders in several nearby counties. As Cohen prayed, wisps of illusory thin threads appeared around them, binding them before they could even react. Immediately after, several black flames flew towards them. Cohen distorted the attack trajectory of those flames, narrowly avoiding them. Then hundreds or thousands of ice arrows shot towards them, and Cohen could only distort a part of them. Just as the ice arrows were about to hit the members of the Beander team, the space in front of them suddenly became chaos, and a large number of ice arrows scattered in all directions as if they had lost their way. The next second, Beverly, wearing a black jade pendant, stepped out. With a raise of her hand, she immediately rescued Cohen and others from the thin threads. Beverly glanced at the lake surface at the foot of the mountain and said, "This is an opportunity." She smiled slightly. Empress Audrey's opportunity. Since the Nether faction of the Balam Empire caused the city of the dead Kaldor to appear, she and Audrey had gradually developed a good friendship. At this moment, the black shadow in the ice mirror seemed to sense danger and wanted to escape, but its thoughts were distorted by Beverly. Beverly told Cohen to lead the team away while reporting the situation here to Hobert through prayer. About 10 seconds later, Hobert arrived with Audrey. He glanced at the ice layer at the foot of the mountain and smiled. I didn't expect the demonist sect to make such a contribution. Hobert had already recognized that black figure. In the beginning, the demonist sect had a total of 3 angels, 1 normal, and 2 in very poor condition. The normal angel Shirley was killed by Hobert, who was still in King of Angels, in the mirror world. There were also 2 angels in very poor condition. One of their Beander characteristics formed the sealed artifact, 0-71, disaster porcelain doll during the South Colson campaign, but her spirit body and consciousness used Beander abilities to escape, and later she was also completely killed by Hobert after he became in King of Angels. There was also an angel in a very poor condition who escaped by burning her, Sapphira, during the South Colson campaign and had been missing ever since. Her condition should have worsened, especially after the mirror world was reconstructed by Hobert. She didn't even have a place to hide for a long time. The one in front of them was this missing angel in very poor condition. The fact that she reappeared in people's sight at this time could only mean that her condition had deteriorated to the extreme, not far from complete loss of control, so she almost had no idea of hiding or, rather, no sanity to hide. Audrey's ritual for promotion to angel was to observe and find an angel's weakness, and then utilize this weakness to weave a dream, leaving a severe psychological shadow on that angel. Originally, Hobert had planned to find an angel from the North Continent to be Audrey's observation target. Unexpectedly, while this matter was still being planned, this angel from the demonist sect delivered herself to their doorstep, which is why Hobert teased the Witch Church so much. Now, the Witch Research Association, a very important Beander force in Atlantis, already had 2 demigods. The Beander characteristics of these Research Association members were all bestowed by the demonist sect. This sect had made no small contribution to the Beander construction of the Atlantis Empire. While Hobert was teasing, he raised a hand and, with the help of the Creator's power, created a small shadow domain to trap the black figure in the pool. Then he gave Audrey a few more instructions, then gave her a pair of glasses made of order crystal, and followed Audrey into the shadow domain, while Beverly guarded this shadow domain outside. Upon entering the shadow domain, Hobert, to facilitate Audrey's observation, still used the exact same terrain as the outside pool and mountains, except that this space could trap the demoness of catastrophe, who was about to lose control. The demoness of catastrophe's spiritual perception sensed Hobert's level, so she hid at the bottom of the pool, not daring to come out. Hobert raised a hand, the ice broke, and he squeezed the demoness of catastrophe out from inside. The shadow domain belonged to Hobert's divine kingdom. Inside, he could easily deal with a sequence 2 angel. The angel's condition was visibly very poor. She would sometimes form a graceful ice sculpture, then the sculpture would collapse, and then form a very beautiful female image on the mirror like ice, but this image would also be difficult to maintain, finally turning into a mass of black hair, but it would not be long before it would turn into an ice sculpture again, starting a new cycle. Hobert used his Beander ability to fix the demoness of catastrophe in front of them, allowing Audrey to observe carefully and in any way she wished. The demoness of catastrophe would sometimes let out a harsh screech, sometimes try to escape using abilities like substitutes, and sometimes tease Audrey with a very pleasant voice. These Beander attacks were all blocked by Hobert and did not affect Audrey. However, just facing a constantly changing demoness of catastrophe, Audrey even blushed a little. She hypnosis herself slightly before she could concentrate on observing this witch. Her ice sculpture state clothing had obvious 4th epic style, indicating that her best state was in the 4th epic. The hair state looked like her most chaos state, but in fact, when she maintained a mass of hair, she retained the most sanity. The relatively normal female state had some central plateau facial features, confirming that her hometown was in the North Continent. As the observation deepened, Audrey obtained more useful information. She tried her best to stay away from Hobert, obviously very afraid of Hobert, or rather afraid of Hobert's level, which indicated that she still had some sanity. In her struggle, she used many abilities, but she did not utilize Mirror Leap and mirror substitute abilities, which showed that she was very aware of the great changes that had occurred in the mirror world. Moreover, she knew that the Creator had reconstructed the mirror world, and if she used abilities related to the mirror world, she would very likely be discovered by the Creator. After observing for 7 or 8 minutes, Audrey felt that her observation skills had improved again, which was very likely due to the observation target being an angel. After grasping some information, Audrey decided to weave a dream about the time in the Fourth Epic's Pale Era when the Underworld Emperor and the Primordial Demoness were killed by the 7 gods. According to Audrey's analysis, the scene when the Underworld Emperor and the Primordial Demoness were defeated by the 7 gods must have left an indelible psychological shadow on this witch. She planned to rub salt in the wound. After asking Hobert a few more historical questions about the Fourth Epic, Audrey decided to give it a try. So, with Hobert's help, the Demoness of Catastrophe successfully fell asleep, and even in her sleep, her appearance kept changing. Under Hobert's protection, the two of them leapt together into the witch's dream. This dream looked very chaotic. The mountains within it, while appearing as mountains, were covered in numerous bloody chunks of flesh. The lakes contained no water, but were filled with creatures resembling lotus flowers, each with many grotesque mouths. The people inside were all composed of strands of hair, looking somewhat like stick figures. This was still relatively normal. Not far away, there were black vortices. Just glancing at them made Audrey feel dizzy. There were also creatures consisting only of a giant skeleton wandering around, and creatures with a bull's head standing motionless in a pond. These extremely bizarre creatures and those vortices basically represented the witch's madness and distortion. With Hobert's protection and wearing glasses made of the Order crystal, Audrey wasn't too affected. Otherwise, in such a dream, her mind could easily be corrupted. After steadying herself, Audrey began to weave the dream. The surrounding scenery was stirred up, but Audrey tried her best to avoid touching the black vortices and the strange creatures. Under her shaping, an ancient city gradually appeared in the dream. This was an impression formed by Audrey from descriptions of ancient Trier she had seen in previous documents. Because she had not seen the full extent of the city, she could only create a part of it. Fortunately, it was for background utilize, and in a dream, she could utilize subconscious influence to make the target believe it was ancient Trier. Immediately after, Audrey began to shape the images of deities. First to appear was the Evernight goddess, emanating a sense of surging tranquility, followed by the majestic figure in the storm and dark clouds. Just as she was sketching the third deity, a mountain full of flesh split open, and a gigantic statue rose from within it. The statue had an unparalleled beauty, with hair that stretched out like countless pythons. The colossal statue swayed slightly, and its stone outer shell peeled off. The statue actually came to life. Its strands of hair flipped up and down, and everything seen by the eyes at the tips of its hair gradually turned gray and petrified. Everything it touched transformed into beautiful women. Hobert immediately stood in front of Audrey, Primordial Demoness. This was somewhat unexpected. Audrey was also surprised. Could it be that this Demoness of Catastrophe, who is on the verge of losing control, is a resurrection arrangement by the Primordial Demoness? Possibly. Hobert realized that the Primordial Demoness in front of him was somewhat bluffing. He thought about it and it made sense. The uniqueness of the witch pathway and the 3 sequence 1 characteristics were all with the Creator. The Primordial Demoness in the dream was just an empty shell. It was highly likely that she realized if Audrey was allowed to complete the dream, this Demoness of Catastrophe would completely lose control. This forced the Primordial Demoness, who was parasitic within this Demoness of Catastrophe, to come out and fight for her life. Hobert led Audrey back, saying, "I'll give you an image. Try to construct it and see if it can affect the Primordial Demoness." If it didn't work, he would then take action. Audrey nodded and immediately received the image that Hobert had distorted into her mind. After a slight stun, she immediately shaped that majestic figure. That figure had a black, handsome cloak and exquisite armor, like an emperor on a battlefield. Behind him appeared an illusory fairyland, where clouds and mist swirled, with floating platforms, pavilions, and flowing water. Within the pavilions, a rustic giant clock was faintly visible, resembling an eye that disdained everything. With every breath he took, he influenced the rules of the surrounding sea area. Around him, some rules were severely distorted, while others became iron laws that no deity could change. This was the creator Hobert's mythical creature state when he was at the half-old one level. Upon seeing this figure, the primordial demoness seemed to once again feel that surging, immense force that constantly shattered everything in front of her. She recoiled. The creator's mythical creature state had left an indelible psychological shadow on her. During the fourth epoch, she had faced the attacks of 3 deities alone, but she had never felt so hopeless. The primordial demoness's retreat immediately triggered a collapse. Large sections of the dream began to crumble, as if the entire world had fallen into an apocalypse. Ultimately, the image of the primordial demoness also collapsed, and the entire dream became even more distorted and disordered. Hobert immediately led Audrey out of the dream. The demoness of catastrophe in front of them had completely lost control. Most of the time, Hobert was only at the King of Angels level, but he was the creator, and the creator was Hobert, so when he needed to, he could possess the level of an old one. At this moment, he used the level of an old one to isolate all contamination. Otherwise, an King of Angels emerging from a runaway angel's dream would certainly be affected to some extent. Immediately after, Hobert continued to borrow the creator's power to change the monster in front of him from life to death. The out-of-control demoness of catastrophe immediately lost all vitality. Hobert then used his newly acquired ability to make the monster's Beander characteristic, chaos, rendering her resurrection ability ineffective. This fundamentally blocked her resurrection process. Soon, Hobert obtained a Grade 0 sealed artifact corresponding to the demoness of catastrophe. He then looked at Audrey. Can the operation in the dream just now be used as a ritual for advancement? Audrey took a deep breath and felt it, yes. And it was a very solid ritual at that. Inside the Black Emperor's mausoleum. The creator spent over a month stabilizing his state, and now he was ready. He once again took out the uniqueness and Beander characteristics that he had captured from Uncertain Mist in the previous battle. Initially, these Beander characteristics were intertwined under the influence of Uncertain Mist's mental imprint. Later, the creator repeatedly crushed them, eventually obtaining characteristics equivalent to 4 Sequence 1 levels. The reason it was equivalent was because these characteristics had not been repeatedly used for advancement and lacked the precise Sequence 1-inch dosage found on Earth. The creator also intervened in the aggregation process to obtain these 4 characteristics. 3 of them clearly belonged to one pathway, and 1 was a separate pathway. This made the creator clearly realize that 2 more Sequence 1 characteristics were likely with the Son of Chaos. In other words, the Son of Chaos had 4 pathways within him back then, 2 of which were the Black Emperor and the Justiciar. There was also this captured pathway, whose primary authority was transaction, as well as being outside of transaction. Besides the main authority, there were also abilities that could inflate the target's ambition, create undisturbed, black box spaces, and abilities similar to law and attack reflection. The creator called this pathway the overseer. All things could initiate and complete transactions, and while the transaction result was precisely what he wanted, he could remain aloof, also acting as the supervisor of the transaction. The creator believed that what was more difficult to deal with than transaction was the opponent's ability to observe. Most of the Beander powers of Old Ones could change the transaction result, but it was difficult to harm the person who initiated and observed the transaction, which is why it was called the overseer. So, the 4th pathway should be the chaos ability with the forward change characteristic. The uniqueness and the other 2 Beander characteristics are likely with the Son of Chaos. Based on the only Sequence 1 Beander characteristic of the chaos pathway that the creator obtained, he inferred that the authority of this pathway was clearly chaos. It could be called restoration or forward change. Overall, it did not exceed the authority of change. The main ability was probably the qualitative change and enhancement of the Duke of Entropy's ability, which could return the target to a chaos state. Many other abilities were very similar to the Black Emperor's abilities, such as making the target fall into a chaos state, which was very similar to a chaos state. Another very powerful aspect was that chaos not only represented the origin of everything, but also the unknown. And the Son of Chaos, with the authority of chaos, should be able to manipulate the unknown. For example, something that is unknown to others could have a definite outcome for him. For instance, in a chaotic area, it might be the state of the universe at its very beginning, or it might be a self-contained world that has already formed, where everything within it is unknown. But to the son of chaos, everything in this chaotic area is controllable. So, if he wills it, the unknown can have a definite outcome. The creator believed that the son of chaos should be able to utilize his own Beyonder characteristic and the authority of chaos to simulate the abilities of the Black Emperor and the other three pathways. The theory behind this ability is, first, a chaos ability is generated, which is unknown at this point. However, he can turn this unknown into known, and under his guidance, he can simulate abilities like alteration or transaction. Of course, it can only possess abilities within its authority. Abilities from non-adjacent pathways cannot be formed. This conjecture arose because the creator recalled some of the jinn's abilities. The jinn once helped Bernadette achieve the sequence 1 level in abilities for a day, which was a kind of alteration, changing sequence 3 to sequence 1. Of course, it could also be seen as a very advanced distortion, or a distortion that had undergone a qualitative change. In regarding the jinn's past transaction with the fool, Klein, the reason the jinn was not afraid of Klein going back on his word was because he possessed relevant authority to supervise transactions. One point the jinn spoke truthfully about: he almost became a pillar back then. For the creator, this was a good thing, because with the son of chaos's previous efforts, the overseer pathway was now a closely related pathway to the creator in terms of authority. After accommodating the uniqueness of the overseer, he could change this pathway to become an adjacent pathway to the Black Emperor and the Justiciar. In the future, he should also be able to turn the chaos pathway into an adjacent pathway. Currently in the mausoleum, the creator first recalled his previous conjectures, then adjusted his state, and with a wave of his hand at the overseer, uniqueness and one sequence 1 characteristic, in an unsealed state, they rapidly merged into the creator's body. The creator felt no obstruction whatsoever, as if 2 raindrops had fallen into a water glass. But immediately after, the creator seemed to become completely illusory, as if he had lost all connection with the real world. Emptiness, coldness, and powerlessness filled all of the creator's sensations. Because he was already an old one, he did not lose his sanity during this process, he only felt completely detached from this world. This feeling was very peculiar, yet also somewhat terrifying, because he seemed unable to exert any influence on this world anymore. At the same time, it was also because of the level of the old one that the creator was able to calmly summon a substitute and bestow upon that substitute the association of the real world. The substitute reached out and grabbed the creator, who seemed to be moving further and further away from the real world. This phenomenon was clearly unreasonable. First, during a process similar to advancement, Beyonder powers could not be used at all. Second, since the creator's main body no longer belonged to this world, the substitute summoned by him should also not belong to this world. But the creator was the order shadow, it was normal for him not to obey order. Thus, the creator did not continue to become illusory. Immediately, the power of the nation of disorder manifested, quickly helping the creator accept and organize the abilities of the overseer. Soon, the creator's figure began to solidify. But it was also at this moment that he felt his spirit being invaded and his consciousness being affected. That was the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist. The appearance of the spiritual imprint indicated that the process of accommodating the uniqueness was coming to an end. The creator immediately focused all his attention on dealing with this spiritual imprint, trying to keep it within a controllable range. He was about to summon the order clock when the substitute holding him spoke indifferently. "What do you think would happen if I let go of you right now?" The creator was stunned for a moment and said, "I couldn't ask for more." He realized that the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist had failed to gain a foothold in the creator, so it instantly invaded the spirit and consciousness of the substitute, who was closely linked to the creator. This was the power of an old one-level spiritual imprint. Even if it was just an imprint, it felt like a complete consciousness. At the same time, the creator realized that his ability to summon substitutes had been distortion, and he could not summon a new substitute at this time. The creator had not been speaking sarcastically just now. If the substitute let go now, he would indeed be delighted, as that would allow him to completely sever the connection with the substitute. This substitute would become an independent entity, and the creator would become illusory again. But in that case, the creator would no longer be affected by the substitute with the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist. He could summon another substitute and still pull himself back into the real world. He wouldn't even need to act, the angels of Atlantis alone could eliminate the substitute. If that didn't work, he could ask the fool for help, and the problem would be easily resolved. But now, the substitute did not let go of the creator, so he was stuck between reality and illusion. The substitute said, "Let's discuss this." The creator found that in his current state, he could still summon the order clock, but the process was a bit slow. He asked, "Who are you?" "I am a part of you," the substitute said expressionlessly. "If you want to fully control the Beander characteristic you just accommodated, if you want it to become an adjacent sequence to the previous two sequences, you must accept me." The creator, of course, knew that the substitute was telling the truth. Without the imprint of uncertain mist, although he could complete the accommodation process, there would be obvious disharmony between the Beander characteristics. After all, the Overseer sequence and the Black Emperor and Justiciar sequences were not strictly adjacent sequences, they could only be considered sequences with similar authorities. The creator had already prepared to accept a part of the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist and make it part of his divinity, but he did not want this passive acceptance. Dong. The order clock was finally summoned. With a melodious chime, the substitute's figure merely stirred for a moment before returning to normal. "It's useless. I'm not trying to seize your consciousness right now, nor am I considered a divine part, so the order clock is useless against me." The creator frowned. If he accommodated the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist as the other party intended, his spirit and thoughts would undergo significant changes. But if he didn't accommodate it, continuing to stalemate would also be dangerous, and he might completely sever some of his connections with the real world. In that case, it would definitely affect his state. Neither of these choices was what the creator wanted to see, as he had been working hard to maintain a good state, which would give him the opportunity to devour other old ones and ultimately face the Son of Chaos. But soon, the creator had another idea, and in the next second, Hobert appeared in the mausoleum. He tried to pull the creator, but the problem was that he was in the real world and couldn't grasp the creator. Moreover, the creator, currently under the influence of uncertain mist substitute, could no longer affect the real world and could not make Hobert illusory either. Hobert pondered for a moment, pinching his chin, then prayed to the fool, asking him to, fooling, the real world and re-accept the creator. The fool quickly responded, fooling, the real world, but the creator's current state was special, and he still couldn't return. Hobert suddenly realized that he was the creator's greatest connection to the real world at the moment. So he first returned to Anju's palace, spread his spirituality throughout the country, and, distortion, the thoughts of all his subjects, making everyone praise their emperor together. For a time, surging power of faith poured into the 9 mausoleums. After being amplified and stabilized by the mausoleums, they all surged towards the creator and Hobert. Because the creator was Hobert, their connection was strengthened. At this moment, Hobert immediately returned to the mausoleum and suddenly jumped towards the now more illusory the creator. The connection between them indeed made them merge into one. For a time, Hobert became the foundation of the creator's existence in this world. The accommodation process continued and quickly concluded, and the creator returned to the real world. As for the substitute with the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist, it seemed to have realized its fate, or perhaps it simply didn't have a very complex thought pattern, so it didn't escape. The creator sensed that after returning to the real world, all his abilities were no longer affected by the substitute. He was about to release his maintenance of the substitute, but then he thought again that this was a good time to conduct an experiment. So the creator asked the fool, who had not yet left, to fooling the substitute, making the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist believe that it was the creator. Because if that substitute were released, a part of the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist would revert to its previous state of attacking the creator's main body. This was because the root of these spiritual imprints' existence lay in the uniqueness and high-level Beander characteristics of the Overseer sequence, and they were already within the creator's body, which was inevitable. But now, the creator could fully concentrate on resisting these spiritual imprints again. This resistance process might last for some time, but the creator currently held the advantage and would ultimately integrate a part of the spiritual imprint within a controllable range. It was impossible not to integrate any of it. This was the cost of acquiring power. The creator's current advantage allowed him to calmly integrate according to his own intentions. If the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist believed itself to be the spiritual imprint of the creator, even if only for a short while, theoretically, the creator could quickly resolve the problem of the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist. The fool immediately performed the fooling, as the creator intended. The creator released his maintenance of the substitute, and at that instant, his spirit and consciousness were indeed impacted again. But this time, the impact was very gentle, because the impactor now believed itself to be the impacted. This was equivalent to, if the creator was a burning furnace before, the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist was like pouring a basin of water into the furnace. But now, the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist was just adding a ball of fire to the furnace. Perhaps the temperature of this fire was different from the fire in the furnace, but it was still fire. The creator separated the distorted and chaotic parts of the spiritual imprint from the clearly gentle parts. He quickly integrated the gentle parts and gifted away the distorted and chaotic parts. At this point, the effect of the fooling ended, and the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist seemed to suddenly come to its senses, but it had already been decomposed. Although it still caused an impact on the creator's spirit and consciousness, the influence was limited. With the creator's efforts, such influence quickly diminished. The creator briefly assessed the situation and estimated that the spiritual imprint problem should be completely resolved within 3 days. Immediately after, the creator perceived that he had gained some fragmented knowledge and some scattered thoughts. These all belonged to uncertain mist. These knowledge and thoughts would still have some impact on the creator, but the impact was not significant, and overall, it was a good situation. Fooling the spiritual imprints or consciousness of old ones was a method the creator and the fool had discussed before to deal with the son of chaos. The fool was also using this method to deal with celestial worthy. From the current experiment, this method was very practical for the creator, but it did not have such a good effect for the fool. Because celestial worthy was already a part of him, if he manipulated it slightly improperly, he might end up fooling himself. The creator was different. He first fooled the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist and then integrated it, which allowed him to take the initiative in the process. The creator expressed his gratitude to the fool. After the fool left, he began to focus on the knowledge and thoughts he had obtained from the spiritual imprint of uncertain mist. Although this knowledge initially felt quite disorganized, the creator's spirituality quickly organized it on its own, making it a part of the creator's knowledge. The same was true for thoughts. These thoughts would also become the creator's thoughts. If there were any plans, the creator would even try to complete them. Among this knowledge and these thoughts, the creator quickly discovered some important intelligence, including information about celestial worthy and uncertain mist. Celestial worthy had once used uncertain mist for Saphira and Deander characteristic decomposition experiments. 2 angel queens. As of now, there are 2 hypotheses regarding the relationship between the son of chaos, the jinn, and uncertain mist. The first hypothesis is that when the original creator last awakened, the son of chaos, along with a portion of the country of the anarchy and the Black Emperor and Justiciar characteristics, were torn to earth. During ancient times, the son of chaos was sealed by the celestial worthy into the jinn, and the cosmic part became uncertain mist. The second hypothesis is that the awakening of the original tore away a portion of the son of chaos's Saphira and characteristics. During ancient times, while the original was in a deep sleep, the son of chaos used his connection with the original and his own authority to enter the barrier, searching for his Saphira and characteristics. As a result, the son of chaos did not find his Saphira and characteristics, but was instead captured by the celestial worthy and sealed into the jinn. For the creator, it is difficult to distinguish which of these 2 hypotheses is true and which is false. Even with the jinn nearby, it remains difficult to discern. Because the jinn is a master liar, and it has been proven that his words are highly unreliable. The creator Hobert is more inclined to believe the second hypothesis, because when the original last awakened, he absorbed the Saphira and characteristics of 3 old ones, the mother goddess of depravity, the mother tree of desire, and the son of chaos. From the current perspective, neither the mother goddess of depravity nor the mother tree of desire have undergone such a split as the son of chaos and uncertain mist. Therefore, even if the son of chaos is somewhat special, the claim that he was absorbed along with his sephira and characteristics is a bit far-fetched. However, the second hypothesis also has one difficult to explain point: how did uncertain mist come about? If the son of chaos, during ancient times, entered the barrier with the cosmic part of the country of the anarchy and two characteristics, why didn't the celestial worthy seal all the sephira and characteristics along with the son of chaos? Of course, if sealed, it would most likely be sealed in two parts: one part the son of chaos, and another part the sephira and characteristics torn from him, or simply leaving this part of the sephira and characteristics on earth would also be a good choice. But this still cannot explain how uncertain mist came about. Previously, the jinn once said that the celestial worthy wanted to resurrect using the identity of uncertain mist, so he tore off the sephira and a pathway from him and sent them into the cosmos, where they became uncertain mist. As for why only one pathway was torn off, the ancient sun god had given the answer even earlier: the celestial worthy could not tear off a part of the son of chaos's characteristics. At that time, the creator Hobert believed that what the jinn said was basically true. The celestial worthy must have returned the son of chaos's sephira and a part of his characteristics to the cosmos for some purpose. Just today, after a part of uncertain mist's knowledge and thoughts became a part of the creator's consciousness, the jinn's lie was exposed once again. Placing uncertain mist in the cosmos was part of the sealing of the son of chaos. Although the celestial worthy had torn off characteristics and sephira from the son of chaos at that time, they had a significant difference from the sephira and characteristics on earth. They had not undergone the aggregation and splitting of the original. This meant that the son of chaos, even in a sealed state, could still utilize these sephira and characteristics through his own authority. That is why the celestial worthy thought of sending them to the cosmos, but he also could not just let the outer gods waiting outside benefit, so he found a way to form uncertain mist. A part of uncertain mist's consciousness came from the son of chaos, but this was not enough to form a complete old one's spirit and astral body. The celestial worthy then gave the spirit and thoughts of one of his identities to this consciousness, which then formed the complete uncertain mist. This is the first reason for uncertain mist's appearance. The second reason is that the celestial worthy conducted some experiments on him. Regarding the celestial worthy, the jinn also spoke some truths, such as the celestial worthy's consciousness indeed splitting. A part of his consciousness believed itself to be an important component of the original, while another part had the idea of separating. The former part still carried out the will of the original. He threw uncertain mist into the cosmos to observe the situation of Earth and the cosmic part of the country of the anarchy. By comparing the complete Sephira castle with the country of the anarchy, which was split into two, he observed the reaction after the Sephira split. According to the celestial worthy's idea, when the original awakens next, he would split the cosmic country of the anarchy into two again, and then observe whether its pollution and distortion would weaken. The characteristics of the overseer pathway were also treated similarly, sent to the cosmos to see if the split country of the anarchy could be used to transform this pathway into one with similar authority to Black Emperor and Justiciar, instead of being an adjacent pathway at that time. In short, he was trying to reduce the connection between the Sephira and characteristics. And the part of the celestial worthy that hoped to form an independent consciousness did indeed lay out arrangements for resurrection on uncertain mist, as well as on the Black Emperor and Justiciar pathways. The reason for making arrangements in these areas is that the Son of Chaos has a close connection with the original, so many Old One authorities and characteristics can be regarded as similar authorities to uncertain mist. This allows for more possibilities in the future, potentially becoming a pillar again. However, over the long years, although uncertain mist was well aware that he was an avatar of the celestial worthy, and knew that he came from the Son of Chaos, the level of an Old One still gradually led him to believe that he was an independent Old One, not an experimental subject or puppet of other Old Ones. Especially since the celestial worthy had already fallen, and the ancient sun god had destroyed the celestial worthy,'s arrangements in the earth part of the country of the anarchy, uncertain mist gained a complete self-consciousness and became no different from other outer gods. The creator took a deep breath. So this is the complete picture of the son of chaos, the jinn, and uncertain mist. Fortunately, the jinn has always been resealed by the fool, Klein, otherwise, bringing the cosmic part of the country of the anarchy and the characteristics of the overseer pathway to earth would be a very risky matter. This made the creator realize a very important thing: he needed to find the evil spirit formed by uncertain mist and seal it. Otherwise, after the barrier disappears, that evil spirit might be attracted by the jinn, and then the jinn would have the possibility of unsealing himself. Even if the issue of the barrier disappearing is not considered, when devouring the characteristics of the son of chaos, he must be placed in the cosmos. If uncertain mist's evil spirit is not sealed beforehand, the son of chaos might gain a complete personality and the qualification to contend for authority with the creator. In addition, there is also some crucial information about other old ones in uncertain mist's imprint, as the creator found it difficult to obtain information about the cosmos before becoming an old one. After becoming an old one, it was impossible to constantly travel to the cosmos, so the channels for obtaining information were very limited. After browsing through these newly acquired consciousnesses, the creator then changed the overseer pathway within his body from a pathway of similar authority to an adjacent pathway. Because it was an adjacent pathway before, he easily completed the change. Immediately after, the creator once again split his humanity, forming Hobert. He remained in the mausoleum to continue digesting uncertain mist's mental remnants, while Hobert left the mausoleum to continue being emperor, continuously supplying him with the warmth of humanity. A week later, accompanied by Hobert, Furs went to the cosmos one last time to spread legends about herself. This time their destination was a planet that believed in uncertain mist. Currently, uncertain mist has fallen, and all these anchors belong to the Creator. After the Creator completely digested the part of consciousness belonging to uncertain mist, he began to gradually take over uncertain mist's anchors. Over thousands of years, uncertain mist had spread beliefs on many planets, but most of them caused great chaos and distortion to those planets, forming deformed civilizations, or even leading to the destruction of civilizations. During this time, the Creator was gradually restoring these civilizations to normal, allowing the intelligent beings there to gradually become normal anchors. One of the planets was not greatly affected, which is why he accompanied Furs here to spread legends. This is a planet where plants have evolved into intelligent beings. Each creature has a flower on its head that can change shape and scent. This is their organ for communication. They have no eye structure, and their main channel for receiving external information is a cluster of organs that look somewhat like tentacles. They generally have the intelligence of normal people, but what is very different is that their lives are long, but their movements are slow, and the rhythm of their entire civilization is also very slow. It is precisely because of this slowness that uncertain mist's distortion and chaos affected the entire civilization at a very slow pace, which gave them a certain buffer time and prevented the formation of a deformed civilization. Furs observed from a distance for a long time, repeatedly exclaiming, "What a wonderful universe." Immediately after, she prayed to Mr. Fool, asking the Fool to help fooling the creatures of this civilization, and soon, legends about Furs were left behind. Just at this moment, a violent earthquake seemed to suddenly occur in the distance. A tall mountain suddenly split open, and the interior of the mountain collapsed, forming a considerable void. Furs was stunned. That is. Don't worry, Hobert smiled, the Creator is taking action today. There was another purpose for coming here today, to utilize these former anchors of uncertain mist to find uncertain mist's evil spirit and seal it. Soon, the Creator, who had quietly slipped out of the barrier, found the empty uncertain mist, and after distortion, sent uncertain mist to the planet where Hobert and Furs were. Furs on that planet saw a black shadow flash by, sent from the cosmos into the split mountain. Immediately after, the void in the mountain was filled with order crystal, firmly sealing the black shadow. Finally, the mountain closed, seemingly returning to normal, as if it had never split open. Witnessing all of this, Furs was stunned for a moment before saying to Hobert, "Let's go back." She didn't ask what the Creator was doing just now, because the affairs of a deity are not something mortals can question. Back on Earth, Furs immediately prepared the Planeswalker potion and consumed it under Hobert's watchful eye. Her body immediately became as ethereal as the starry sky, with specks of starlight, and at this moment, her consciousness had already entered the starry sky to roam. When Furs came back to her senses, she realized that she was lost in the depths of the starry sky. The advancement ritual played its role at this moment, becoming a beacon for Furs's journey through the starry sky. Because the ritual preparations were quite solid, Furs completed her advancement without any major mishaps, taking only 3 to 4 minutes. That afternoon, another Empress, Audrey, also completed her advancement under Hobert's watchful eye. Unlike Furs's advancement, in Audrey's process of advancing to Angel, her own consciousness easily merged with the subconscious ocean. The previous advancement ritual was to utilize the psychological shadows left on the angels to distinguish which was her own consciousness and which was from the subconscious ocean. At the angel level, as long as a strong psychological shadow had been left, a certain imprint could be left in the subconscious ocean, and this became the key for Audrey to find herself. It also took only 3 to 4 minutes for Audrey to successfully advance to an angel. Both empresses of Atlantis had now become angels, and Hobert was considering whether it was time to have 2 children. Although Hobert currently appeared to be only at the King of Angels level, he was also the creator, and his children would certainly be angels from birth. If the 2 empresses were only sequence 3, the birthing process might still be dangerous, which is why no princes or princesses had been born in the Empire until now. In the depths of the universe, a star suddenly emitted intense and brilliant light. At this moment, all of its matter scattered throughout the entire universe. The power of this instant was terrifying. Even from a very distant part of the universe, its emitted light could be seen. But this was its swan song. This star exploded. This astronomical phenomenon is called a supernova explosion, and it happens constantly in the universe. But the explosion of this supernova was clearly different. After emitting intense light, a hole formed within the light, as if something was bathed in the strong light and high-energy explosion. The next second, the strong light and the immense power of the explosion instantly vanished. At this point, the hole finally became clear. It was a scorching white sphere, and within the sphere, there seemed to be a small gray shadow. After absorbing the strong light and immense explosive power just now, this scorching white sphere ignited with white, glowing flames, as if expressing its joy. This is Superstar Overlord, one of the old ones who wished to enter the real world. However, he would not stay in the solar system indefinitely, as there were too many old ones there, making it very dangerous. So he would occasionally return to the universe to enjoy a delicious, stellar feast. At this moment, Superstar Overlord seemed to realize something. Just as he was about to transform into a streak of light and fly away, a figure that was not very tall but gave a sense of immense sacredness and grandeur suddenly appeared before him. The figure was dressed in Atlantean-style clothing and had Hobert's appearance, but at this moment, it showed no emotion of any living being. In the holy light, the Creator, wearing a crown, had 3 hands, one holding a scepter, one holding a brass-colored codex, and the third holding a tilted scale. Superstar Overlord was the target of consumption chosen by the Creator. This old one's authority, besides control over gravity, was also a phenomenon of intense change in the universe. The reason for not consuming Son of Chaos first was that the Creator intended to add some ingredients to Country of the Anarchy. After all, this was once Son of Chaos's Sephira, and that fellow could easily affect this Sephira once released. If it merged with the Sephira of other old ones, Country of the Anarchy would become different. At that time, even if Son of Chaos came to contend for Country of the Anarchy, the Creator would have some leeway. When the Black Emperor had just advanced, Uncertain Mist did not tell the complete truth. This old one's authority was explosion and gravity. This is where the advantage of the Anarchy's authority is reflected. Explosion and gravity doesn't seem to have much connection with change, but the entire explosion process is a process of intense change. Symbolically speaking, the Creator can consume this old one. Of course, this consumption process must be very dangerous. The Sephira of Uncertain Mist and the Creator's Sephira are both Country of the Anarchy after all. Although they are called similar authorities, they are too similar. However, the Sephira of Superstar Overlord would not be as easy to merge as the Starry Sky portion of Country of the Anarchy. Another reason for choosing Superstar Overlord is that this old one currently has only one complete pathway. No one has stipulated how many pathways a pillar can accommodate at most, but the four known pillars, Omniscient and Almighty One and the fourth pillar, each have 5 pathways, while Lord of the Mysteries and Mother Goddess of Depravity each have 3 pathways. Based on common sense, the creator believed that the number of pathways he could accommodate also could not exceed 5. Considering that Son of Chaos originally controlled 4 pathways, then accommodating only one more pathway would be the safest. The sudden appearance of the creator at this moment caught Superstar Overlord off guard, and he immediately transformed into a streak of light and fled. He was able to do this because Evernight Goddess helped him conceal his tracks. The creator, holding the scepter, slightly raised his hand and altered the speed of cosmic light. For a moment, Superstar Overlord, this light, suddenly stopped in place. It wasn't that he didn't move, but rather that he moved very, very slowly, about 1 kilometer per hour. This scene was very strange, as if a flashlight had been turned on, but the beam of light was solidified a dozen centimeters in front. All the stars in the universe were no longer circular but became thick linear shapes. This is because the speed of light was too slow. The light from the previous minute hadn't traveled far before the subsequent light appeared, so moving stars appeared to draw a thick straight line in space. The creator easily caught up with Superstar Overlord and prohibited him in place. But the next second, the prohibition suddenly shattered, and Superstar Overlord became agile again. But at the same time, the codex in the creator's hand opened, and several ancient characters flew out from it, instantly forming sentences: prohibition of explosion. Prohibition of Superstar Overlord seeking help. Prohibition. Because of the creator's prohibition, in the universe that had just returned to normal light speed, all supernovae stopped their explosion process. Superstar Overlord realized that he was no match and immediately scattered a colorful halo around him. These halos formed a cluster of stars, obscuring Superstar Overlord tracks. He was preparing to escape by other means. But the creator first, distortion, his escape route, making him return to his presence no matter how he tried to escape. At the same time, the creator also declared death. Superstar Overlord was immediately severely wounded. The scorching white sphere fiercely burned with intense flames, then turned gray, and finally black, scattering all the aura of death within him. Even if he was not as strong as the creator, the level of an old one indicated that he was extremely difficult to kill. At this moment, the image of Fool appeared on the other side of Superstar Overlord. Superstar Overlord fate suddenly underwent a serious error. He rapidly expanded and instantly exploded. This error was that Superstar Overlord became a supernova whose life had reached its end, so he exploded, scattering his spirituality and life to the outside world, and quickly heading towards annihilation. Fool made a move because even if Superstar Overlord couldn't call for help, battles between old ones still easily attracted the attention of other old ones. But Superstar Overlord quickly controlled his form, stopped the annihilation process, and used his ability to manipulate gravity to quickly regather himself. However, his previous explosion violated the creator's prohibition of explosion law, so he was punished and consequently suffered more severe injuries. Also at this instant, the creator, holding the tilted scale, slightly raised his hand. Because the creator had just received the spirituality and life force scattered by Superstar Overlord, he traded his own and all his anchor's darkness and negativity to Superstar Overlord. For a time, Superstar Overlord became very unfortunate and lost all will to resist. Meanwhile, the creator's anchors throughout the universe were surrounded by luck and positivity. Uncertain Mist did not have the creator's ability. This operation was the creator's utilize of multiple authorities. At this moment, Evernight Goddess also launched an attack, giving Superstar Overlord enough darkness. Suddenly, the scorching white sphere cracked open, and a strangely shaped stone statue slid out from within. The shape of this stone statue was unseen by the 3 old ones on Earth. Just one glance made one feel as if it was filled with madness and distortion. This was Superstar Overlord true form, and the scorching white sphere around him was his Sephira. Superstar Overlord was truly unlucky. During the crucial battle of the Old Ones, his true form and Sephira experienced a severe disharmony, with the true form being repelled by the Sephira. And even more unluckily, Superstar Overlord was still very passive and did not immediately put up effective resistance. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the creators, Justiciar's sword, and Evernight Goddess's Twilight Greatsword simultaneously pierced the strangely shaped stone statue. The creator judged, destroy. Bang! The stone statue cracked and turned into dust. Superstar Overlord fell. The creator of Pillar. To avoid bringing risks to Earth, the creator did not bring the spherical Sephira of Superstar Overlord back to the real world. Instead, after quickly leaving the battlefield, he asked Evernight Goddess to establish a huge, hidden area for him. He intended to attempt to accommodate Superstar Overlord Sephira and Beander characteristic in the depths of the universe. The Fool and Evernight Goddess did not leave, they stayed to see if they could help. Following this, Lilith, who was still somewhat worried, also arrived. They waited outside the hidden world, occasionally glancing into its interior, much like family members waiting outside an operating room. Inside the hidden world, after preparing himself mentally, the creator placed the Sephira, which resembled a small star, into the Nation of Disorder. Rumble. For a moment, the entire Nation of Disorder surged, and the creator also felt his thoughts become numb, as if his mind had stopped and he couldn't form any ideas. Fortunately, the creator had given instructions to the Nation of Disorder in advance. It once again became void, then formed a giant gravitational vortex, attempting to crush the blazing white star that had suddenly appeared within it. However, the blazing white star produced strong resistance and could not be crushed for a time. The creator regained some sanity. He saw the still unharmed, blazing white star, and immediately realized that crushing was not the way to accommodate similar authorities. In other words, only the original creator could completely merge two Sephiras. As the limit of an old one, it was to merge two Sephiras to a certain extent, allowing them not to conflict and both to be used by oneself. Thus, the Nation of Disorder stopped churning and instead covered the surface of the blazing white star, like a liquid, intending to make it part of itself. Although this method prevented the star-shaped Sephira from resisting, it still showed no signs of being accommodated. The creator, having recovered more sanity, had no choice but to adopt the third plan. He first used the Nation of Disorder to form layers of black, hard barriers around the blazing white star. Then he changed the form of the blazing white star, making it active. This ability to change was like an activation signal. The blazing white star rapidly expanded, and the creator timely used abilities like amplify on it. Boom! Just as the creator had expected, the blazing white star entered a state of explosion. For a moment, the surrounding black barriers loosened and became precarious. The creator, sensing something, seized this moment to summon a clone, who would provide assistance at any time. Then, taking advantage of the blazing white star's explosion, he mixed the power of the Nation of Disorder into that Sephira and stirred it together. At the same time, the creator also devoured the uniqueness, which resembled a nebula, obtained from Superstar Overlord, and a Sequence 1 level Beander characteristic that looked somewhat like a phantom meteorite. For a time, because the creator was mixed with the Sephira of the blazing white star, he had a certain affinity with the uniqueness and the Sequence 1 characteristic. He could also utilize the power of the Sephira to suppress the distortion and madness brought by the characteristic. On the other hand, the uniqueness and Sequence 1 characteristic he devoured quickly provided the creator with a pathway to merge the blazing white star. It was equivalent to using Sephira against characteristics and characteristics against Sephira. Although this approach was good, the creator quickly lost his sanity due to the distortion caused by the Sephira and characteristics. He himself became extremely distorted, sometimes taking on a human form, sometimes transforming into a vortex of power, and sometimes blazing with a scorching white flame on the vortex of power. The clone immediately said, "This place can overcome all distortion. This place makes it easy to regain sanity. In this place, the madness of Sephira and Beander is somewhat weakened. In this place, the power of the anchor is amplified. This place is more receptive to the warmth of humanity. This place." While issuing the law, the clone also continuously amplified the creator's sanity, changed the main body's state, and so on. At this time on Earth, in the imperial palace of Anju, the capital of the Atlantis Empire. Hobert was meeting with the transmigrator Jeff in his office. This transmigrator had finally become a qualified town mayor after more than 3 years, which was why Hobert had invited him for a chat. When Jeff first started as a village head, there were actually many opportunities for promotion, and the speed of promotion was fast then, usually half a year to become a town mayor, 1 year to become a county magistrate, and 2 years to become a prefect. At this time, Hobert's younger brother, Tyrone, caught this wave of promotions and is now the highest official of a prefecture. As the imperial government's control over the entire country strengthened, unless a world-class war occurred again and a large amount of territory was occupied, there would no longer be such a rapid wave of promotions. Next, Hobert's focus would be on using the transfers of senior officials to try to ensure the balance between the central and local governments. At the same time, the aristocratic class had already shown some signs, and Hobert would further strengthen the functions of inspection agencies and enhance the political participation of official beyonders to balance the increasingly complex domestic situation. Hobert would draw a red line. The aristocratic class could exist, or rather, it was an inevitable product of the bureaucratic structure. It was acceptable for their lives and diets to become refined and high class, but not extravagant, nor could they disregard the dignity of others. Another crucial point was that no interest groups could be formed. If Hobert detected the formation of any interest groups, he would certainly break them down one by one and punish them severely. As for why the transmigrator Jeff took more than 3 years to become a town mayor, it was because in the first 2 years, he had been trying to escape. However, because the original owner's status was not high, he did not understand that this world was based on the Beander. So after leaving his post 3 times, he fell into desperate situations each time. Furthermore, this transmigrator clearly did not have much social experience and was accustomed to a peaceful country with good public order, lacking even the most basic sense of precaution. During his solo adventures, he was robbed, slaughtered, and in short, the little money he earned as a village head always disappeared quickly. Although public order in the Atlantis Empire has improved greatly now, it merely means there are no more villains extorting money everywhere, and no more kidnappers or robbers. Because a large part of the Empire's territory is still relatively poor, theft, illegal vendors, and other situations are inevitable. Only when the entire country is basically wealthy and there are more channels to acquire wealth will such phenomena gradually decrease. After escaping 3 times, Jeff finally understood. The transmigrator who became emperor didn't fail to hear the secret signal he shouted. He just wanted him to understand this world by working at the grassroots level. After all, whenever he was at his wit's end, someone would always help him and bring him back to his original post. Even if Jeff was slow, he understood what was going on. So, more than a year ago, he fully dedicated himself to his work. "This world is more complex than I imagined," Jeff said with a smile. "I should have settled down and stayed at the grassroots level much earlier." Hobert had an "it's no big deal" expression. "I came a few years before you, so I can create an opportunity for you to make mistakes." Jeff keenly noticed, "You all." "That's right," Hobert replied truthfully. "Including you, 5 transmigrators have contacted me. However, the other 4 had already basically adapted to life here before contacting me." Jeff sighed. "I originally thought I was the son of destiny, but I didn't expect it to be a group transmigration. Compared to most people in this world, and most people in the Ad era, you are the son of destiny." Hobert took a sip of coffee. "What are your plans for the future?" "I want to see the cities," Jeff said. "It's very likely that they represent this era." Hobert nodded. "I can sponsor you to go and see places, but I won't provide you with any more protection." Jeff sincerely said, "I'm already very grateful to you." He then mused, "I didn't expect to work 996 before transmigrating, and only in this world do I finally have time to wander around aimlessly." Hobert casually asked, "What kind of work did you do before?" "Big data development engineer." Hobert was slightly taken aback, unfamiliar with this profession. Jeff then explained, "Commonly known as a programmer." Then he asked, "When did you transmigrate? Has one piece finished?" Hobert gave a wry smile, "No. In the hidden world deep in the starry sky, the creator, who had almost completely lost his sanity, suddenly felt his human side providing him with a continuous stream of emotions, sensations, and so on, giving him a warm touch. This was as if a bright lighthouse had appeared for him in the cold void. After a while, he suddenly came to his senses. Now is not the time to be distracted. Thoughts rushed in like a surging river, and he seemed to suddenly remember that he was currently accommodating the authority of a similar pathway. Buzz buzz buzz. There was a huge noise in the creator's mind, as if the ringing in his ears had made him deaf. Immediately after, it felt as if someone was stirring his brain, and the intense pain contorted his face. This experience was very unpleasant, like being suddenly beaten up while sleeping soundly. The creator then realized that he only had a face left. Everything below his neck had been completely replaced by void and white flames, making him look like a monster with only a head. The clone summoned earlier had been helping the main body maintain its state. Even so, the creator's main body was already disfigured. After regaining some sanity, he struggled against the madness and distortion, beginning to regather his body. But he quickly discovered that he had completely lost control of himself. This was because the blazing white star had already merged with the nation of disorder. The creator could control the nation of disorder, but it was difficult to control the blazing white star. This was equivalent to a normal body having some uncontrollable steel organs inserted into it. Fortunately, the creator quickly found a way to break the situation. The uniqueness and Beander characteristics seized from Superstar Overlord had already initially merged with the creator. The creator used this to gradually pull parts of the blazing white star, bringing them under his control, and mobilized the power of the nation of disorder to deeply merge with those parts under his control. But this was bound to be a very long process. Anju, Imperial Palace. Hobert sent Jeff away and welcomed another guest, Medici. After they were seated, Hobert asked with a smile, "How is your current state?" "Better than expected," Medici, who was noticeably more handsome, said expressionlessly. "I'm just very curious why you would help me to this extent. Is it really just to fight against the outer gods?" Hobert laughed. "Isn't that reason enough?" Medici took a deep breath. "No matter what, your actions have greatly surprised me." He paused, then added, "When I came, Rosal also asked me to pass on a message to you. His current state is also relatively stable, and he is ready at any time." Hobert hummed. "The final war is about to begin." Medici only chatted for a few moments before leaving in a hurry, as he still needed to find a place to continue stabilizing his state. Hobert glanced at the sky, unsure how far along the creator's plan was. However, given that the creator had not yet returned, today's operation must be very difficult. But he didn't dare to sense the creator's current state, because doing so would establish a two-way association, and he would definitely be affected by the creator, which could bring many unknown dangers to Earth. After stabilizing his emotions, Hobert went to the backyard of the palace. After meeting with his two empresses, one mature and languid, the other young and beautiful, they left together for Christine's residence. Today was an important day for their family. Tyrone would formally introduce Melissa, as well as Melissa's brother, sister-in-law, and little niece, to the family. Derek and Donna had already arrived and were waiting in the living room for today's guests. The family chatted together. Christine and Monliza were both very pleased that their children had found their life partners, and their former small family had grown into a large one. Around 5:30 p.m., Melissa's family arrived. Donna and the others went out to greet them, first exchanging pleasantries at the main entrance, and then entering the living room together. In fact, everyone already knew each other. The so-called introduction was simply for both families to meet, which also served as a public announcement of the couple's relationship. Soon, they would be discussing their engagement. While they were chatting, Hobert suddenly looked out the window. He saw a vividly feathered racket-tailed drongo, a common local bird, perched on a branch of a large tree in the yard. With just a glance, Hobert knew it was the World Gehrman Sparrow's marionette. Hobert withdrew his gaze and suddenly realized that the union of Tyrone and Melissa was actually a marriage between two old ones. However, Hobert quickly came back to his senses and continued chatting with Benson about the situation on the North Continent. Last year, under Rosal's leadership, the Intis Republic launched a battle against the Central Plateau. Loan, Fursak, and other countries were forced to join the war one after another, which then escalated into a continent-wide conflict. Under Medici's command, Intis achieved considerable victories in the war. This caused some changes in the situation on the North Continent again. The subsequent dinner was a joyful and warm family gathering for both hosts and guests. The Creator, deep in the universe, felt his humanity strengthening little by little. A very Lord of the Mysteries phenomenon was that this gave him a continuous flow of power to fight against distortion and madness. After an unknown period, he finally regained control of himself. Afterward, the fusion process suddenly became smooth, and soon he initially controlled the superstar overlord Saphira, which caused significant changes in the Nation of Disorder. Before, the Nation of Disorder only had light and darkness, but no sun. At this moment, a blazing white sun appeared in the sky, but this sun was very restless, often causing the entire Nation of Disorder to vibrate. It was then that the function of the order clock was revealed. With this giant bronze bell, the foundation of the Nation of Disorder was not shaken, which saved the Creator a lot of effort. Another change was that a volcano appeared in the Nation of Disorder and was constantly erupting, drifting out white dust, turning a part of the Nation of Disorder pure white. Those pure white areas were filled with distortion and madness, which were very uncoordinated parts of the Saphira. These distortions and madness were manifestations of the Creator's current state, largely maintaining a non-collapsing state, sealing all distortion and madness within a certain part of his body. If it were other old ones, they might fall into a semi-mad state because of this, but the Creator possessed the order clock. Dong. As the melodious bell rang, the sun in the sky of the Nation of Disorder became much calmer, and the areas of distortion and madness also quickly eased, at least outwardly appearing less distorted. When the Saphira was peaceful, the Creator himself could take shape. At this time, his state was very much like a Beander who had recovered slightly from the brink of losing control. The Creator, having regained his human form, withdrew his substitute and lamented that the path to becoming a pillar was simply too perilous. The impact brought by the mutual fusion of Saphira was too intense. In comparison, the mental imprint shock brought by accommodating the uniqueness and Beander characteristic was completely negligible. Fortunately, the most difficult time had passed. He slightly raised his hand, and in the vast secret world, a star instantly erupted, its terrifying power sweeping through the entire galaxy. But in the next second, the entire galaxy vanished without a trace. The Creator used multiple authorities to accelerate the explosion process, causing that galaxy to immediately meet its complete destruction after exploding. He had basically mastered the power of this Saphira and characteristic. And his overall ability had significantly increased, allowing him to clearly feel that he was stronger than ordinary old ones. At this moment, the surrounding secret world disappeared, and the Creator, the Fool, Evernight Goddess, and Lilith, 4 deities, gathered together. The Creator said, "We cannot wait. My condition will only worsen the longer we wait." The other 3 deities nodded and went to prepare separately. Around 9 p.m., Anju, Christine's residence. After Hobert's family sent off Melissa and the others, they returned to the living room, chatted over tea for a bit, and then each went home. The Emperor's family returned to the palace by carriage. As soon as Hobert alighted from the carriage, he seemed to realize something and looked up at the night sky. Tonight's night sky was beautiful, with twinkling stars and a huge red moon. The simultaneous appearance of both was clearly problematic. Hobert again sensed the Creator's presence, which was also a signal. He calmly said to his 2 empresses, "Summon all angels." The red moon that night was exceptionally beautiful and exceptionally round. Even though it wasn't supposed to be a full moon tonight. The mother goddess of depravity, looking down at Earth from the moon, suddenly had a bad premonition. So, she scrutinized the surface of Earth, searching for the source of her unease. Just then, an ethereal figure appeared under the crimson moonlight. This figure held a baby, with spring water gushing forth and herbs growing at her feet, and a white moon above her head. Impossible. The mother goddess of depravity immediately realized that Earth Mother and Lilith had already fused. They had become true old ones. But in the battle a few months ago, when the Creator attacked Uncertain Mist, Lilith was clearly still only at the level of half an old one. Crucially, for a while recently, the mother goddess of depravity had not sensed Lilith becoming an old one. But now was not the time to think about this, because at this moment, the moon was moving away from Earth, uncontrollable by the mother goddess of depravity. Lilith was seizing the moon. The mother goddess of depravity instantly gathered her power and resisted Lilith. Suddenly, the night sky seemed to become even denser. The mother goddess of depravity felt as if she had arrived at the end of all life. The next second, she might die on the moon. That was the Evernight goddess. More precisely, it should be eternal darkness, singularity of all things. It turned out that the Evernight goddess had also accommodated the uniqueness and sequence one characteristic of the Twilight Giant pathway. The mother goddess of depravity also understood why she hadn't detected Lilith becoming an Old One. Not only did the Evernight goddess conceal her own ascension to Old One, but she also concealed the fact of Lilith becoming an Old One. It was at this moment that the mother goddess of depravity realized the source of her unease. What about the other, half-Old Ones, on Earth? Had they also become Old Ones now? Anju, Imperial Palace Main Hall. All the angels immediately gathered at the palace after receiving Hobert's notification. There were 9 angels present: Emperor Hobert, Empresses Audrey and Furs, the Chief Commander of Official Beyonders Christine, and the Minister of Defense Archibald. There were also 4 commanders of Official Beyonders: Beverly, Raymond, Sharon, and Dophus. The Creator still had some Angel Beyonder characteristics, but for now, this many angels were enough. Moreover, an angel should be the highest reward in the Beyonder world, and certainly not to be given lightly. So, in more than 3 years, the Atlantis Empire had not added any new angels. At this moment, the spirituality of the 9 angels seemed to sense something, and they all looked up at the ceiling of the hall. Furs raised her hand, and the ceiling of the hall first became illusory, then revealed the moon and the starry sky above. Everyone saw that the originally crimson moon had turned white, but on the white moon, there was a huge, blurry crimson figure. Several angels were surprised, and then they realized that a very high-level battle was taking place on the moon. Everyone stay here, on standby. Hobert, sitting on the throne, suddenly said, "Don't worry, the Creator and other deities are well prepared for this battle." As he spoke, he stood up and took the djinn from Audrey, but the upcoming battle will definitely have a significant impact on the real world. Now Christine is the chief commander here. If there are any anomalies in the Empire, she will assign you to solve the problems. Christine nodded. Audrey realized that Hobert was also going to participate in the war. She stood up with some worry and said, "Be careful." Hobert stepped forward and kissed her cheek. "I will." Furs also stood up and said, "Don't overexert yourself." Hobert smiled slightly and also kissed her cheek. "I won't." After speaking, Hobert, holding the djinn, disappeared from the hall. North Continent, Lowen Kingdom, Backland. Leonard, still working in his office, felt the power of the night suddenly strengthen tonight. In all areas illuminated by the moonlight, all ordinary people fell into slumber. Leonard walked to the window of his office and looked at the sky. "Old man, is that an outer deity?" "That's right." A voice that only Leonard could hear said, "The deities of the real world are fighting an outer deity for the moon." Leonard paused slightly before saying, "A being above the gods has appeared in the real world." Pales, who was parasitic in his body, chuckled, "It appeared long ago, you just haven't paid attention to some of the rule changes on Earth." Pales had a very clear understanding of this point. Leonard recalled the information exchanged earlier at the Tarot Club. So, the Evernight goddess. She succeeded. Pales said with a chuckle, but this is not surprising, because she has been preparing for this for a very, very long time. On the other side of the sun, the Creator struggled to maintain his sanity, otherwise he might, casually, cause the star in front of him to explode. At this time, most areas of the real world were in darkness, and the moon was on the dark side of the earth. From the battlefield of the Mother Goddess of Depravity and the other 2 Old Ones, past the earth, and then past the sun, was the Creator's current position. After confirming that the battle there had begun, Hobert arrived here with the djinn. He exchanged a glance with the Creator, letting the djinn float in gravity-free space. In the next instant, they became a complete life form, the Creator Hobert. At this moment, the Creator made a gesture towards the void, and the mysterious image of the Fool appeared, releasing the seal on the djinn. The battle on the other side of the sun was actually to attract the attention of the outer deities. The true purpose of Earth's deities was to help the Creator devour the Son of Chaos. Although the Mother Goddess of Depravity only had the symbol of a pillar, if Earth didn't have a pillar, it would be difficult to severely injure her. According to the information the Creator had previously obtained from Uncertain Mist, the Mother Goddess of Depravity, the Circle of Inevitability, and the Original Hunger were all relatively difficult outer deities to deal with. Among them, the situation of the Mother Goddess of Depravity was the most special. If a pillar didn't appear, the battle with the outer deities could easily turn into a prolonged war. By then, the solar system, and even the entire universe, could very likely be shattered by these old ones. At this moment, the Creator's plan became crucial. As long as he became a pillar, even a mental-stitched monster with the Son of Chaos, there would be hope of completely defeating the Mother Goddess of Depravity. This way, the battle could be ended quickly. Even if the galaxy was shattered, as long as the outer deities were severely injured and driven away, with the combined efforts of several old ones, it could quickly be restored to its original state. The Jinn, with complex mystical symbols on its surface, began to burn silently without Hobert needing to wipe it. The light emitted by the wick sprayed upwards like viscous water, forming a blurry and distorted pale golden human figure. He said in a magnificent voice, "I didn't expect you could reach this step." The Creator Hobert smiled slightly. "Yes, if you had known I would have such abilities today, you wouldn't have told so many lies in our previous conversations." The Jinn replied, "If you were in my current position, you wouldn't tell the truth either." The Creator did not continue the topic, but said in a solemn voice, "I will fulfill my promise and return the Jinn to the starry sky. From this point on, our transaction is completely over." As he spoke, the Sword of Judgment appeared in the Creator's hand. Release. With a single strike, the divine lamp, which resembled a small kettle, was pierced with a crack. The mystical symbols on the divine lamp immediately dimmed, and then the crack grew larger and larger. A dark and majestic figure gushed out from within. After regaining its freedom, this figure immediately became illusory, then transformed into a nebula, and finally into a phantom dark shadow. This was the Son of Chaos. An illusory voice said, "I think you have some misunderstanding about your own abilities. The nation of disorder belongs to me. Even if it has changed from before, it still belongs to me." The surroundings were in a vacuum state, the old ones were communicating through spirituality. At this moment, the Creator felt the nation of disorder within him surge, as if it was about to leave him. The Son of Chaos said joyfully, "I have to thank you for helping me make the nation of disorder complete." Although there was only one characteristic left in her body and no Sephira, her symbolic meaning remained. If it was against other old ones, she might not be as strong as Uncertain Mist, but she could influence the nation of disorder, and thus influence the Creator. The Creator's chest became illusory, and the nation of disorder was about to be dragged into the real world. The moon suddenly split open with a huge crack. This crack grew larger and larger, even revealing the high-temperature lunar core. Because it was exposed to space, the outer part of the lunar core instantly solidified, turning into a large iron ball. Under the struggle between the Mother Goddess of Depravity and Lilith, Mother of all things, the moon was split into two, becoming two hemispheres. On the half of the moon that the Mother Goddess of Depravity had seized, countless springs suddenly appeared, followed by the growth of wheat fields and herb patches. This was Lilith's Beander attack. As these crops grew, the Mother Goddess of Depravity felt her spirituality gushing out of her body like a rushing river. Soon, the wheat and herbs withered, and tall, wide-boned swords suddenly pierced out from beneath the moon's surface. That half of the moon instantly became like a hedgehog. The Mother Goddess of Depravity also had to leave the moon's surface, but the bone swords beneath her feet suddenly grew gray fur, thus gaining new life, and pierced towards their summoner, the Evernight Goddess. The symbolic meaning of a pillar allowed the Mother Goddess of Depravity to still have the strength to counterattack, even when being besieged by two old ones and having no advantage. At this moment, the dark starry sky seemed to suddenly be torn open with a crack, and an aura of decay and corruption descended. The King of Decay arrived to join the battle. In Backland, the vampires of the city gathered at Emlyn's villa, watching in horror as the moon in the sky split into two. At this moment, something in their hearts seemed to have broken, making them feel somewhat alarmed and uneasy. The moon in the sky held a very special meaning for vampires. They found it hard to imagine what would happen if there was no moon in the sky. Don't panic. Cardinal Emlyn shouted, the moon will return to its original state. Even if there is no moon in the sky, our deity is our moon. He will eventually restore the moon. Don't be afraid, don't panic. As long as our deity is here, we are safe. With Emlyn's words, everyone's emotions calmed down considerably. A vampire baron asked, Marquis. I mean, Archbishop, will the moon really return? Of course. I am the savior chosen by the ancestor. In truth, Emlyn was also uncertain, but at this moment, it was clear that he needed to stabilize morale first. After speaking, he looked up at the sky, wondering what was happening there. He had just prayed to the Mother Goddess and the Fool separately, but received no response. Because the deities on Earth, with the help of the Evernight Goddess, concealed the fact that they had become Old Ones, their honorific names remained unchanged. Lilith and the Evernight Goddess concealing their status was actually part of Hobert's plan. Previously, when dealing with Uncertain Mist, they all had the opportunity to become complete Old Ones, but at that time, they declared war at the level of half an Old One, precisely to deceive the outer deities. Not long after that, Lilith and the Evernight Goddess successively became Old Ones, intending to catch the outer deities off guard at this very moment. At this time, the Creator was contending with the Son of Chaos for the Nation of Disorder. At first, it seemed that the Son of Chaos had the upper hand. But under the Creator's control, the volcanoes in the Nation of Disorder erupted instantly, and the sun in the sky also burned with white flames, illuminating the entire country with a pale light. The speed at which the Son of Chaos pulled the Nation of Disorder immediately slowed down. The Creator feigned composure and said, just as I expected, as long as I mix some things into the Nation of Disorder, it can have some effect on you. It's useless, a dark Son of Chaos said, for you, it's a similar authority, and for me, it is too. Soon I will also be able to manipulate that Saphira, and then your death will be even more tragic. Hobert, however, laughed, how about we talk about something cheerful? If I'm not mistaken, your claim that you are a life directly created by the original Creator is actually to conceal your origin, isn't it? The Son of Chaos did not have organs to show expression, but she suddenly fell silent. You betrayed the original Creator, didn't you? Hobert continued, at the very beginning, you might have been a part of the original, but you took away what he needed most, the authority that could change the essence of Beander characteristic. Or rather, you should be the part of Beander characteristic that is unwilling to be tamed by living beings, only willing to maintain its current indifference and coldness. After 1 or 2 seconds, the Son of Chaos asked, did you learn that from Uncertain Mist? No, this is my conjecture, Hobert replied, otherwise, it's impossible to explain why your authority is similar to the pathways of most other Old Ones. You know, the Omniscient and Almighty One and the Lord of the Mysteries cannot do this. This should be the reason why you possess a part of the original's symbolic meaning. I think that when you defected from the original must have limited your level, allowing you to only be an ordinary Old One. That's why you want so badly to become a pillar, because you want to further integrate other Saphira and Beander characteristic. You are preparing to replace the original Creator. But your thoughts were once again seen through by the original, so when you awakened last time, he tore your Saphira and dragged your Beander characteristic to Earth. Among them is the Black Emperor pathway, which is very important to you, and you would definitely come looking for it. So, the original's other personality, Lord of the Mysteries, sealed you and was preparing to continue tearing your Saphira. He paused and continued with a smile, the reason I suddenly had this idea is that although many outer deities' characteristics and Saphira were torn to Earth, it seems only you were sealed. In this world, differences in destiny indicate that you must be different. For a moment, the surroundings fell silent. Actually, this was space, and it should have been quiet. The Fool, hidden in the dark, didn't expect that just helping out would lead to such astonishing information. The Son of Chaos openly admitted, you are right. I really can't understand why humble life should become the master of Beander characteristic. Beander should be the master of everything. Hobert suddenly said, now. The Fool's image appeared again, fooling the Son of Chaos. Because the Son of Chaos's level had been restricted by the original, she currently only had the level of an ordinary Old One. Hobert had been maneuvering with the Son of Chaos all this time. The Creator seemed to be fully contending with the Son of Chaos for the Nation of Disorder, but in fact, he was also waiting for this moment. While the fool was fooling the son of chaos, the creator immediately performed, amplify, and thus succeeded in one go. The son of chaos suddenly felt that she was the creator. At this moment, the creator's chest suddenly turned into a black vortex, sucking the son of chaos into his body. The son of chaos was different from uncertain mist. When uncertain mist fell, the meander characteristic it held would precipitate, and the Sephira could be absorbed. But the son of chaos was different. The remaining pathway within her body currently, apart from the original, no other deity could separate it from the son of chaos. Therefore, the son of chaos could only be completely devoured. At this instant, the creator's spirituality immediately realized that the characteristics for him to become a pillar were complete. Final chapter, Twilight of the Outer Gods. In the direction of Earth, the mother goddess of depravity and the king of decay, sensing something, looked towards the sun. Someone, no, the creator is attempting to become a pillar. Because at present, the only one who can possibly become a pillar is the creator. At this moment, they no longer held back. The king of decay, whose main body somewhat resembled a flesh-colored crystal, suddenly emitted a circle of gray light. Wherever the light reached, everything turned gray. The Evernight goddess, who was closest to him, was instantly highlighted by the gray. The gray, representing sickness, decay, and corruption, was eroding the Evernight goddess bit by bit. The moon not far away also turned gray. It no longer reflected sunlight, no longer emitted brightness, like a shriveled, collapsed fruit after rotting, leaving only a disgusting blob of slime. Mars, which happened to be not far from Earth, was also affected, the red planet turning into a hazy gray. Earth, protected by a barrier, was not too severely affected, but patients in the real world immediately worsened, and some who were already very ill died. The mother goddess of depravity also no longer held back. The illusory infant in Lilith's arms suddenly let out a cry. He was reborn, transforming into a monster composed of slippery tentacles. This forced the Evernight goddess and Lilith, who only wanted to stall for time, to respond carefully. On the other side of the sun. The intensely burning sun occupied almost all the sight in one direction. It continued to emit light and heat as always. After the creator devoured the son of chaos, he immediately tried to accommodate the uniqueness and meander characteristic on the son of chaos and quickly digest the son of chaos's consciousness. But strangely, he only obtained a somewhat special uniqueness. Because the duration of fooling was limited, there was no time to think carefully at this moment. The creator took out a sequence 1 characteristic that had been captured from uncertain mist earlier. At that time, a total of 4 sequence 1 characteristics were captured, 3 of which belonged to one pathway, and 1 was a separate pathway. That constantly changing meander characteristic immediately transformed upon encountering the son of chaos's uniqueness. Both sides became illusory and actively merged with the creator. At this moment, the son of chaos thought he was the creator, so the fusion process was completed very easily. It was at this instant that the creator understood that the uniqueness within the son of chaos was very special. It was the most crucial part of the nation of disorder, like a Sephira and also like a uniqueness. Due to the special nature of this pathway, there was only one sequence 1 characteristic for it. After rapid fusion, the nation of disorder immediately underwent significant changes. Every inch of land, every rock, every tree, and even every blade of grass in this Sephira emitted a deep, dark holy light. The scorching white sun high in the sky above the nation of disorder, and the white volcano in the distance, instantly dimmed. The creator realized that the uniqueness within the son of chaos was more like the command center of the nation of disorder, capable of connecting the Sephira and other authorities to produce a qualitative change. As long as this step was completed, he would become a pillar. Theoretically, this would take time, but the creator had a simple method: striking the order clock. As soon as this thought appeared, the order clock appeared before the creator. He raised the hammer and was about to strike it, but suddenly froze there, unmoving. At this critical moment, the effect of fooling ended, and the son of chaos awakened, struggling with the creator for dominance of will. The creator wanted to strike the order clock with his spirituality, while the son of chaos pulled back the extended spirituality. At this point, they were one person, and could influence each other. Using the time he had just gained, the creator had already digested some of the son of chaos's consciousness, so in this tug of war, he slightly gained the upper hand. Give up. Hobert, the human part, said to the son of chaos, you cannot become a pillar, or rather, you cannot break the limitations given to you by the Creator. If you give up, I can help you become a pillar. Give up. The son of chaos also said, with your life form, becoming a pillar is your limit, but I can make you a new creator, creating a new world. Hobert sneered, I think the current world is pretty good. The Creator, like a rusty machine, was pushing the hammer forward with jerks. Dong. Finally, the melodious bell rang, and the nation of disorder trembled slightly. The entire Sephira became lofty and sacred. The Sephira devoured from superstar overlord once again merged to some extent with the nation of disorder, almost entirely free of distortion and madness. But then the Creator discovered that he seemed to have become an outsider to the Sephira, and an invisible, intangible barrier appeared between him and the nation of disorder. The son of chaos sneered, you ignored a problem. If I betrayed the beginning, why would there be an order clock in the nation of disorder? The Creator Hobert paused slightly before saying, I thought you stole it. No, the son of chaos said, this is the limit of life. You cannot imagine that the beginning is a collection of contradictions. He is the omniscient and almighty one, he is the Lord of the mysteries, and he could also be you. It is you who truly cannot escape his limitations. Because he exists in every human consciousness. I am not a part of the beginning, and the order clock was indeed given to me by the beginning, because in his contradictory personality, one part, or sometimes, the beginning, did have the idea of changing the Beander status quo. But to change the Beander status quo, one must replace him as the new creator. The Creator fell silent. He could imagine a state with multiple personalities, but he truly couldn't fully comprehend what it was like to exhibit multiple personalities simultaneously. So, the son of chaos continued, striking the order clock is equivalent to sentencing yourself to death, because I have ultimate ownership over the order clock and the nation of disorder, and this is also the power granted to me by the beginning. The Creator felt himself drifting further and further away from the nation of disorder. An unprecedented sense of powerlessness filled his chest. He thought to himself, this might be the limit of life. Compared to the will of the Creator, the will and desires of life are incredibly tiny and fragile. He slowly closed his eyes, intending to give up the struggle for the nation of disorder. Be careful. Don't be reckless. Audrey and Furza's voices suddenly appeared in his ears. Some things are always more important than others. Klein's voice appeared in his ears. Are you guys really not going to seriously consider the name, Ancient God Alliance? It's so cool, isn't it? The image of Rosal, a middle-aged man who still held some Chunabu ideas, appeared in his mind. Christine, Donna, Monliza, Tyrone, Hugh, Bernadette. Face after face appeared in his mind, making his mind lively. Tears streamed from Hobert's eyes. These people were what he could not let go of in this world. Then he thought of Freya, Old Kohler, and the people who died in the Great War a few years ago, whose names had been forgotten. Finally, he saw a little boy squatting on the ground. That was Hobert when he was young. He was studying the ant's every move. In the eyes of a child, this world was so colorful. Suddenly, Hobert opened his eyes, his gaze filled with determination. This world has never given up on me, and I have no right to give up on this world. Although the barrier between him and the nation of disorder was still there, Hobert struggled to squeeze towards the Sephira. For himself, and for everyone in this world, he could not give up. You're lying again, Hobert said as he squeezed. If you could truly control the nation of disorder so easily, you would have done so long ago. What are you waiting for now? You're waiting for me to give up. As long as I don't give up, even if you control the nation of disorder, I will become half of your consciousness, forming a pillar with a dual personality. Because, I am also an old one. An indestructible part of this universe. The son of chaos remained silent, for he was struggling to seize the nation of disorder. Actually, you're not as powerful as you say. Hobert said coldly, you might not have betrayed the beginning, but you are definitely one of the beginning's test subjects. I suspect he might want to utilize you to test whether some rules of Beander characteristic can be changed using external force. Of course, I know that the beginning wants to change the Beander not for the sake of the universe's intelligent beings. He wants to make his own existence more meaningful and longer lasting. Life is just his creation, but since he created us, the matter of life is not up to him to decide. One thing, the beginning, said was correct: humanity, sometimes warm and sometimes cold, can influence the Beander. The Creator now felt filled with power, having gained some advantage in the struggle for the nation of disorder. Fool watched as the Creator became illusory and chaotic, as if transforming into a colorful airflow. At this moment, he could not help much and could only rely on the Creator himself. At this moment, the outer gods had already sensed the Creator's plan. Not far from the sun, a seed seemed to suddenly appear. In an instant, a large tree made of thorny vines emerged from the place of that seed. Each vine seemed to have special inscriptions. Just looking at these inscriptions would cause curses or the explosion of inner desires. The mother tree of desire arrived first. The thorny vines immediately surged towards the Creator like a tide. Fool immediately grafted them to the sun not far away. Under the scorching heat, the vines withered and caught fire one after another. Immediately after, a grayish-white, soft-bodied existence appeared, shimmering with illusory light and mystical symbols. Original hunger also arrived. The next second, an illusory giant mouth appeared not far from the Creator, as if to devour everything in this universe. A black gush of water emerged, as if it were the culmination of all malice and fallen in this world. Almost simultaneously, demon monarch Farbati appeared. He had also become a complete old one, but at this moment, because the mother tree of desire was present, he temporarily dared not utilize the power of the tenebrous world. Of course, the mother tree of desire also did not utilize the power of the tenebrous world without certainty. Farbati intended to send the black gush into the giant mouth, but the giant mouth immediately closed. Although he ate everything, he clearly did not want to devour curses and malice. Immediately after, a complex, ancient, and heavy-looking ring appeared, surrounded by illusory, swirling mystical symbols. The outer god circle of inevitability arrived. The spirituality and river of destiny on the battlefield immediately underwent violent fluctuations. The Creator's destiny was affected, and the process of his promotion to a pillar became extremely difficult. At this time, on Earth's side, all the old ones who had previously left the barrier to fight had now joined the battle, while on the outer god side, besides the circle of inevitability, unceasing whispers, and high-dimensional overseer had not yet joined. For the outer gods, this was a guaranteed victory, but Earth's side still concealed its strength. At this moment, the sun not far from everyone seemed to suddenly dim. Almost in an instant, the entire star transformed into a terrifying stream of information. It rolled and surged, enveloping the Creator. The Creator's altered, destiny information, returned to normal. Between the sea of knowledge and the circle of inevitability, a noble figure with chestnut hair and two exquisite small mustaches appeared. It was Rosal. In the past few years, with the help of the Creator, he had not only become a hermit but had also successfully used the clues left by the hidden sage and the uniqueness to find and accommodate the knowledge more. His final step to becoming an old one was resolved through negotiation. Of course, it wasn't him who negotiated, but the Creator who negotiated with the god of steam and machinery. The Creator asked the god of steam to give up his uniqueness and a bestower's characteristic. The Creator guaranteed that he would still be in King of Angels in good condition. This could be achieved using the ability of alter. This ability could not only alter a relatively low sequence to a higher sequence, but also a high sequence to a low sequence. Furthermore, the Steam Church and the Atlantis Empire were further bound together, with the Creator acting as the god of steam's protector. If he did not agree, then the Creator would have no choice but to let the god of steam perish. This seemed not too difficult to choose, so Rosal obtained the perfect one, uniqueness and a bestower's Beander characteristic, and became an old one not long ago. Rosal raised his hand, and torrents of information surged towards the circle of inevitability. On the raging sea, Katlia had just witnessed the moon disappear. She knew there must be a huge change in the starry sky, so after calming the crew, Katlia used a secret technique to arrive at Queen Mystic's Emerald Palace. At this moment, Bernadette, with chestnut hair, was observing the starry sky from the observatory. Ever since she became an angel, she could boldly observe the constellations. Bernadette had already noticed Katlia, and she still looked up at the starry sky and said, just now, Mercury, Venus, and Mars disappeared one after another. Katlia was slightly surprised. I thought only the moon disappeared. Then she paused, because these 3 planets could not be observed simultaneously. Queen Mystic must have used some mysterious means to observe them. That's different, Bernadette said, retracting her gaze. The moon is truly gone, but Mercury, Venus, and Mars are still there, it's just that the sun suddenly disappeared. This, Katlia thought to herself, this is a bigger problem. As a former mystic, and now an arcanist, Katlia naturally knew that planets could be observed because they reflected sunlight, not because they had their own light source. Fortunately, there's a barrier protecting us, Bernadette suddenly sighed. Otherwise, the real world would also be greatly affected, because the sun's gravitational pull on our planet seems to have disappeared. Katlia suddenly felt the limitations of her knowledge. What does this mean? This means, Bernadette looked at the starry sky again, our planet no longer revolves around the sun. Earth will no longer have regular springs, summers, autumns, winters, and day and night. The entire world will plunge into eternal darkness. Rosal directed the tsunami-like information flow towards the circle of inevitability. Suddenly, the surging information flow seemed to hit a giant rock. The information flow was separated, churned, and became somewhat disordered. At the very center of the disorder, a massive monster with 3 giant feet appeared. This monster resembled a giant tree stump, with its enormous feet occupying most of its body. Above the feet was a cylindrical structure. Its body surface was covered with various mouths, some with teeth, some without, some with suckers, some with barbs, and so on, too many to count. All of them were open, seemingly screaming something. Between the mouths were bright, rolling mystical symbols. Just a glance at them seemed to fill one's mind with countless maddening whispers. This was the unending whispers. The situation instantly reversed, turning into the circle of inevitability and the unending whispers, ganging up on Rosal. Even among the outer gods, there were some contradictions and conflicts, but today they united against the outside, doing their best to deal with the old ones of Earth. Because they were well aware that if they failed in this battle, all the Sephira and high-sequence characteristics on Earth would be out of their reach. From then on, they would have to live a life of hiding in the universe, avoiding being devoured by the old ones on Earth. Just as Rosal was feeling the strain, a black flame ignited beside the circle of inevitability. A spiritual vortex immediately formed there, burning away the circle of inevitability's previous attack of altering fate. Medici, with red hair and a beauty like the most beautiful woman in the world, appeared, helping Rosal deal with the 2 outer gods. Medici's promotion to Old One had also been concealed by the Evernight goddess, precisely to catch the opponents off guard at such a moment. In the war that Rosal had initiated earlier, which swept across the North Continent, Intis achieved some victory, and Medici used that war to advance to Red Priest. The Red Priest pathway's uniqueness was exchanged by the Creator from the Knowledge and Wisdom God Church using 2 sets of Doomsday Witch, Beander characteristics. Medici's path to becoming an Old One was somewhat simpler than Rosal's. After all, the City of Calamity had appeared long ago, and the primordial demoness had also been killed by the Creator early on. Aside from encountering some difficulties when accommodating the City of Calamity, all other steps went smoothly. At this moment, the starry sky not far away suddenly became illusory, and a white ball of light emerged from the illusion. In the very center of the light ball was a black eye symbol. The shape of this symbol was somewhat similar to the mystical symbol of an eye on Earth, but there were clear differences. The biggest difference was that the symbol representing the pupil had 2 parts. The high-dimensional overseer arrived, but he did not immediately join the battle, as if preparing to ambush the Creator who was at a critical moment of advancement. Immediately after, on the other side of the battle, a brilliant ball of light appeared. This light ball was composed of lines of various colors, and these lines constantly wove, forming various images. This was the Weaver of Destiny, an outer god who rarely showed her face. The Weaver of Destiny quickly joined the battle, attacking full alongside the Mother Tree of Desire. Due to the influence of the Lord of the Mysteries and Sephira Castle on the pathway of destiny, the Weaver of Destiny was unwilling to face Fool alone. With the Mother Tree of Desire present, she was very willing to attack Fool, hoping to injure him. At this moment, Fool, who had not yet become a complete Old One, was somewhat unable to resist the attacks of these 2 outer gods. Suddenly, he shouted at the high-dimensional overseer, "What are you still waiting for?" The light sphere suddenly split open in the middle, and from within emerged a young man dressed in a classical magic robe and wearing a pointed hat. However, his eyes were distinctly different from human eyes. Instead of two horizontal eyes, he had a single narrow vertical pupil with two orange pupils within it. He said, "It seems the Creator understood my hint." It was Amon's voice. Aemon had been studying outer gods for a very, very long time. Initially, his purpose in studying outer gods was merely to find something stimulating to do in his long life. But after studying for a period of time, he discovered a huge loophole. When attacking Tony Manor, Aemon discovered through studying the bestowers of uncertain mist that he could steal the power of outer gods by using the process of bestowal. This theory is equivalent to, normally, the recipient prays to the outer god, and the outer god bestows power. But Aemon felt that this was too troublesome for the outer god. He could actually take it himself. For others, or other deities, such an idea might seem somewhat fanciful. But for Aemon, this was merely a loophole, an error, something that could be utilized. So after he became a god, he had a further opportunity for research. Just then, the LotM Empire released several outer god deer, and he captured the high-dimensional overseer's deer back then. After further research, he basically mastered the method of replacing a certain outer god. Klein's summary of Aemon was very accurate. Aemon decided to enter the starry sky only after he had sufficient confidence. After he became a dual-pathway true god, he once again made some preparations and stole a portion of the high-dimensional overseer's power. However, this portion of power had always been in a clone. When he failed in the struggle for the Lord of the Mysteries, he immediately entered the starry sky and gradually replaced the high-dimensional overseer by utilizing some loopholes. In the previous battle attacking Uncertain Mist, Aemon placed a blue eye into a crystal and gave it to the Creator. That blue eye was precisely the clone of the high-dimensional overseer's deer released by the LotM Empire. The Creator and Hobert discussed it and both believed that this should be Amon's signal to himself. Because back then, Aemon had captured the high-dimensional overseer's deer right in front of Hobert. At this critical moment in the battle, Aemon no longer concealed himself. His entire body suddenly radiated a sacred light. With a slight lift of his hand, the Mother Tree of Desire also radiated starlight. The next second, the Mother Tree of Desire disappeared from the battlefield, sent by Aemon to another dimension. Immediately after, Amon's narrow vertical eye looked at the Weaver of Destiny, who had already reacted. This outer god suddenly felt as if all her secrets had been seen through. The lines that formed her true body and constantly wove, like a malfunctioning machine, suddenly paused. At this moment, Fool seized the opportunity to fool the surrounding River of Destiny, causing the Weaver of Destiny to almost lose her Beander attack ability. If it were a head-on battle, Aemon and Fool would likely not have gained such a significant advantage so quickly, but because Aemon launched a sneak attack, he gained a considerable advantage. The next second, the space of the battlefield was torn open by several barbed vines, and the Mother Tree of Desire was trying to return to the current dimension. Aemon immediately covered her front with another dimensional space, starting a process of one returning and one blocking. However, overall, Aemon held the advantage. On the other side, Fool also gained a clear advantage in his battle with the Weaver of Destiny. The crisis of the Old One's numbers was finally resolved. But this was undoubtedly a protracted battle, or rather, such a battle would likely take a very long time before a winner could be decided. At this moment, everyone's attention was more or less focused on the Creator. Both sides were well aware that the key was currently with the Creator. If the Creator successfully advances, the Earth's side will have a pillar, and then the outer gods will have almost no chance of winning. Conversely, if the Creator loses in this struggle and the Son of Chaos achieves the ultimate victory, then the outer gods will win. Of course, the Old Ones on Earth's side are not without a chance. They will only have another chance to fight after Fool fully awakens and becomes the Lord of the Mysteries. Suddenly, the Creator, like mist and like a nebula, emitted a brilliant light, causing the surrounding mist and dust to glow with a sacred radiance. Reflected in the sacred light, a figure appeared that was not tall, yet gave a feeling of immense sanctity and grandeur. The figure was dressed in Atlantis-style clothing, bearing Hobert's appearance, but at this moment, he showed no emotion of any living being. In the holy light, the Creator, crowned, had 3 shoulders in total, front, left, and right, and 6 arms. One hand held a scepter, another held a brass-colored codex, the third held a tilted scale, the fourth held a bulging sphere, the fifth held a chaotic, illusory ball of light, and the sixth held a bronze bell. At this instant, the rules of the entire universe underwent certain changes. Stars became very unstable, planetary orbits deviated, the speed of light propagation changed, white dwarfs and neutron stars returned to a chaotic state, and the process of galaxy evolution began anew. But immediately after, everything became orderly again. At this moment, even all black holes, naturally, evaporated, releasing a large amount of matter. For intelligent life, at this moment, the order of their society appeared before their eyes in the form of visible lines and diagrams. In an instant, these anomalies disappeared, but in this universe, a new pillar was added, the Creator. Hobert felt that he existed within the operating rules of the universe, within the societies established by all intelligent life. Wherever there were rules and changes, there was the Creator. Thus, what symbolizes the Creator is the immense gravitational pull of stars that can capture smaller planets, and it is the emergence of privileged classes when social resources are not abundant. Anything involving rules or laws belongs to a part of the Creator. Unlike the starry sky and the spirit world, the symbolism of the Creator is more abstract, but it represents the norms and laws that are indispensable to all things. These abstract things are constantly changing, just as galaxies are constantly operating and society is continuously progressing. The several old ones around were stunned. They had not expected that even at their level as old ones, there could still be things that made them tremble. At this moment, the struggle between the Creator and the Son of Chaos continued, but the Creator had gained a certain upper hand. So he said in a solemn and magnificent voice, "The Son of Chaos never existed." The Son of Chaos's consciousness collapsed bit by bit, finally returning to chaos in his extreme unwillingness. Because he did not gain the upper hand in this struggle, he couldn't even leave a final word. The Creator's recent ability was the sum and qualitative change of the Justiciar's law ability and the Overseer's spiritual speech ability. What is said becomes law. And the usage just now was combined with the ability of chaos, which allowed the Son of Chaos to be strangled at the very moment of his initial formation. However, the traces of the Son of Chaos's existence remained unchanged, they were all replaced by the Creator. From then on, no one below the level of a god knew of the Son of Chaos, they only knew that the Creator was a life directly conceived from the very beginning, and that the Creator was one of the outer gods, yet also protected Atlantis and the interests of the people at the bottom of the world. At this moment, although the Creator does not exist in beginning and end, he can change beginning and end. After becoming a pillar, the Creator's life form and abilities underwent another qualitative change. The abilities of the 5 pathways merged, not merely allowing the utilize of the 5 pathways abilities, but also forming abilities similar to what is said becomes law, transcending the universe and time. The disappearance of the Son of Chaos made the Creator feel a certain deficiency in his personality. He would need time to gradually make up for these missing parts. But this was not an urgent matter at hand, as these deficiencies would not affect his state for the time being. He slightly raised the hand holding the order clock. Dong! The sound of the bell echoed melodiously throughout the entire universe. Fool took a deep breath and suddenly vanished from the spot. But 2 or 3 seconds later, a mysterious giant castle suddenly appeared in space. This castle also gave everyone the oppressive feeling of a pillar. The Weaver of Destiny felt an inexplicable panic upon seeing the castle, but her thoughts were constantly being changed by the Creator, preventing her from escaping in time. The castle gates opened, and a figure dressed in magnificent attire, with a face as illusory as the stars, appeared. The new Lord of the Mysteries was born. With the help of the order clock rung by the pillar, Klein instantly defeated Tianzun, and achieved the final victory in this struggle. This was also why the other old ones all supported the Creator becoming a pillar first. As long as the Creator succeeded, the Earth's side would have 2 pillars. New Silver City. The Beyonders all realized that this night was unusual. All ordinary people had already fallen into deep slumber, which prevented them from being affected by the divine war in the starry sky. Derek stared blankly at the coastline, because since just now, there had been no waves, the sea had fallen into an unprecedented calm. This calm was terrifying, as if something momentous was brewing. Dong! The bronze bell at the top of Fool's Cathedral rang without wind. Everyone looked towards the cathedral and saw that it was emitting a sacred light. Derek and the others immediately went into the cathedral. The archbishop and clergy on duty today were all kneeling in a part of the cathedral, worshipping in the direction of Fool's statue. Through the cathedral's grand doors, Derek and the others saw that Fool's statue, which was originally made of ordinary stone, suddenly emitted a sacred yet gentle light. At this moment, they also felt their legs weaken and slowly knelt down to worship. Derek's tears flowed freely, he could feel that Fool had awakened. Klein raised a hand, and a series of dazzling doors opened on the Weaver of Destiny. The lines that formed her true body drilled into these doors, and this old one was actually dismembered, just like that. Although this old one did not perish then, it would be very difficult for her to escape today. The circle of inevitability on the other side had already escaped. Under the attack of the Lord of the Mysteries, outer gods who wield the authority of destiny often crumble easily. The Creator no longer paid attention to this battlefield, but instantly appeared on another old one battlefield. He slightly raised both the hand holding the scepter and the hand holding the bulging sphere. The mother goddess of depravity was suddenly struck flying by an immense force. She desperately wanted to utilize her own Beander characteristics and abilities to stabilize her form, but it was useless. No matter how hard she tried, she was distorted, without any room for resistance. This was the Creator's utilization of gravity. The Black Emperor's authority could distort, or alter, gravity, and the Superstar Overlord could also manipulate gravity. Thus, this authority also underwent a qualitative change. At this moment, the Creator was the symbolic meaning of gravity. Under his control, gravity could instantly become extremely immense and possess Beander properties. Boom! The Mother Goddess of Depravity crashed violently against an invisible wall, like mud thrown against a wall, flattened into a thin layer. Bathed in sacred light, the Creator, with 6 arms, instantly appeared behind her. There is no longer any feminine power in the world. The forms of the Evernight Goddess and Lilith in the starry sky underwent some changes. On Earth, all females turned into males, and witches were no exception. All animals were only male, with no females. The same was true throughout the entire universe, all feminine power temporarily disappeared. This was different from the previous law, targeting the Son of Chaos. At that time, it was aimed at the Son of Chaos alone, so the law effect could last permanently. However, the law this time involved an extremely vast quantity, especially since it also involved many Beander pathways, so the sustained effect could not be permanent, lasting only a few minutes. But this was enough. The Mother Goddess of Depravity's power suffered a massive weakening. Atlantis Empire, Anju Imperial Palace. Several angels were still gathered there, and the 2 empresses still sat on their thrones. With the barrier in place, no major Beander events occurred throughout the empire. Audrey suddenly asked Furs, why are you looking at me so strangely? Furs said somewhat unnaturally, you grew a beard. Audrey, with her long, flowing hair and beautiful royal gown, instantly transformed into a handsome man. Audrey reached out and touched her chin, feeling incredulous. As an angel, she had no idea why such a change had occurred. She also noticed, you grew an Adam's apple. Furs touched her neck, also looking surprised. Then both of them noticed their chests shrinking, and it felt like something extra had appeared between their legs. Not only did the 2 empresses change, but Beverly and Sharon also showed obvious male characteristics. Several angels were astonished to realize that the world's feminine power was rapidly fading. In the starry sky, the Creator opened the law book in his hand, and he pronounced, the Mother Goddess of Depravity contaminated Mr. Door, causing this person, who loved his homeland, to be forced to abandon his life upon returning home. Therefore, his symbolic meaning as a pillar is stripping, effective immediately. If it were a normal pillar, such a stripping could only last for a short time. But at this moment, the Mother Goddess of Depravity only had the symbolic meaning of a pillar left, and she was greatly weakening under the Creator's law. Therefore, this stripping would last for a long time. The mother goddess of depravity roared, as if unwilling to obey the Creator's judgment, but resistance was futile. She was firmly trapped there, only able to watch as the mystical symbols rolling on her body disappeared. The Creator continued to Justiciar, the mother goddess of depravity has been using Mr. Door to exert influence on the Abraham family, causing the Beyonders of this family to die in loss of control and pain. Therefore, her Old One level is stripping, effective immediately. The glowing runes belonging to the Old One on the mother goddess of depravity's body disappeared. The mother goddess of depravity wantonly harmed living beings, sentenced to death, effective immediately. Traces of hanging, beheading, and firing squad immediately appeared on the mother goddess of depravity's body. Theoretically, these attacks could not kill an Old One, but they rapidly drained the mother goddess of depravity's vitality. The Creator's hand holding the scepter and the hand holding the law book suddenly came together, forming a giant sword with sacred light. This giant sword pierced into the mother goddess of depravity's head, and the Creator solemnly judged, death penalty. All life on the mother goddess of depravity's body instantly vanished. Under the effect of the Creator's ability, her Beyonder characteristic rapidly precipitated, and the mother nest in the starry sky was also pulled out. Immediately after, the Creator sent the mother goddess of depravity into the depths of the universe. After all, the mother goddess of depravity had the symbolic meaning of a pillar, and as time passed, the effects of the previous judgment and law would gradually disappear. Although the mother goddess of depravity had lost the foundation of all her power, she would still form a very high-level evil spirit. That sword of judgment could effectively seal the evil spirit until forever. This war of the Old Ones ended like this. The mother goddess of depravity and the Fate Weaver fell, and the other Old Ones, except for the Circle of Inevitability who escaped quickly, all paid a certain price to escape. The Creator raised a hand, and the Sun and Moon reappeared, and Mars returned to normal. The Old Ones on Earth's side were all gathered on the Moon, feeling very relieved at this moment. They had driven away the outer gods and protected Earth and humanity. Even Amon's face showed a sincere smile. This feeling is quite good. The Creator reminded, Doomsday still exists. Everyone should have noticed that we have become the cause of Doomsday. Indeed, several Old Ones had noticed that an extremely strong attraction had appeared between them. This attraction seemed to come from the depths of their souls, and they could not control themselves from moving closer to each other, wanting to make the other a part of themselves. This attraction had existed before, but at that time, it was still controllable. However, when two pillars appeared, the feeling of drawing closer and merging became much stronger. I can temporarily prevent the aggregation of Beyonder characteristic. In a week, we must disperse to various corners of the universe to avoid infighting. The Creator said, in the future, only one Old One will remain to guard the solar system. When outer gods invade, we will collectively return to protect the solar system. To prevent you from becoming outer gods, I will help you transform other star systems, so that you all have multiple prosperous worlds of your own. The warmth of life will melt the coldness of the Beyonder, as well as distortion and madness. The other Old Ones all nodded in agreement. The Creator's 6 hands lifted together, and the other Old Ones and pillars immediately stopped feeling the mutual attraction, but they knew that this state could only last for a week. The Creator suddenly smiled and said, Everyone, we are the hope of defeating divinity. Please strive to strengthen the human part, and eventually let divinity and the Beyonder become a part of us, rather than us becoming a part of divinity. This was a way to defeat the Beyonder, but it would take a long time to show results. When Hobert, the Creator's human part, returned to the palace, he saw his 2 empresses rubbing their chests in an empty side hall. Hobert was stunned. Audrey and Furs didn't expect Hobert to return suddenly. Both of them said with slightly flushed faces, it's nothing. Just now, they had regained all their female characteristics, but they still couldn't help but come to the side hall to confirm again. Furs cleared her throat and asked, is the battle over? It's over. Hobert smiled, we won a great victory. Audrey also asked, you weren't hurt, were you? Hobert opened his arms. Several times I thought I wouldn't make it back and wouldn't see my 2 beautiful empresses again. Audrey and Furs were slightly stunned, both knowing that this battle must have been extremely dangerous. So they hugged Hobert, one on his left and one on his right. Feeling the softness and fragrance of his 2 empresses, Hobert took a deep breath, it's good to be home. God-forsaken land, true Creator's divine kingdom. Adam was sitting in front of the cross, as if praying, and also as if confessing. You look very well. Amen, with his narrow vertical pupils, appeared beside Adam. The two brothers sat side by side, facing the giant cross together. Adam, with his golden beard, also said, "You look good too." Amen said, "The tyrant and the White Tower are allies of the Evernight Goddess and the Earth Mother. It will be difficult for you to succeed in the real world. Why don't you come with me to the starry sky?" "No, the outer gods have been driven away, and my plan is no longer urgent." Adam asked, "Are you leaving soon?" "Yes." Amen smiled, "Farbati and I have agreed to pursue the mother tree of desire. The Creator also said he would help me establish my own world." Adam also showed a gentle smile. "I can tell that guarding has increased your humanity." Amen was slightly stunned. "So, this is what humanity feels like. Fog Sea, on the Blue Avenger. Alger held a pocket watch in one hand, but his eyes were looking at the eastern horizon. Finally, the sun appeared, which made him let out a long sigh of relief. Last night, everything became so abnormal. Because many planets were no longer visible, and the orbit of his own planet had changed, he once suspected whether the sun had disappeared. Alger smiled. The sun rose as usual. It wasn't until he might lose the sun that Alger realized how precious the sun was. At this moment, Alger also saw that the sunlight illuminated the towering, impassable wall of gray mist on the west side. At this moment, the gigantic mist wall was gradually dissipating. Alger suddenly felt numb all over. This is a sign that the West Continent seal is being lifted. That morning, Hobert received Medici in his office. "Are you leaving Earth today?" "Yes." Medici said, "I have nothing to miss here." Rosal will also come with me, but he will leave in King of Angels level clone." Hobert understood. "It seems you two will act together." Medici nodded and said, "We agreed to go after the unending murmurs together. If you need help, pray to the Creator at any time." "We will." Then Medici added, "Also, I still need to confirm, can humanity truly defeat divinity and overcome the distortion and madness of the Beander in the end?" Hobert understood Medici's meaning. "You think there's no hope at all?" Medici nodded honestly. "Yes. This path is very difficult, and it is destined not to show results in the short term." Hobert smiled. "This reminds me of a story I heard when I was a child. If you are an ordinary person, and at your doorstep, there are two vast mountains blocking your communication with the outside world, causing you great inconvenience, what would you do?" Medici didn't even think. "Of course, I'd move away. You and Amen would both make that choice, because you are born mythical creatures." Hobert said, "Not just you, I estimate Rosal, Evernight Goddess, or most people in the world would make the same choice as you. But some things cannot be solved by evasion. You must have the determination to, not move, but move the two mountains, to achieve some results in resisting the distortion and madness of the Beander." Medici was slightly stunned, thought for 2 or 3 seconds, and then said, "I understand." Hobert smiled, stood up, and patted his shoulder. "Good luck." The next day was the first Monday of the month. At 3 in the afternoon, as usual, the members of the Tarot Club entered Saphira Castle to attend this month's Tarot Club. As soon as the members appeared, they felt the immense pressure emanating from the head of the bronze long table. In surprise, or with the thought of, as expected, everyone looked towards the head of the bronze long table. Sitting there was a figure wearing Loan Kingdom formal attire, with part of his body hidden in the gray mist. It was indeed Mr. Fool. Justice, Audrey and, the Hanged Man. Alger felt a sense of realization, because Mr. Fool's attire was very similar to his attire when the Tarot Club was first held. After everyone was stunned for a full 2 or 3 seconds, Audrey smiled and stood up. "Good afternoon, Mr. Fool." "Welcome back." The Fool, Klein's lips curved upward. "Good afternoon, Miss Justice." "Good afternoon, everyone." The sun, Derek felt his eyes moisten again. Mr. Fool has truly awakened. Wednesday morning, Utopia Town. It was particularly lively here today because Gehrman Sparrow and Sharon's wedding was to be held in the morning. The wedding ceremony was simple, but Ms. Ariana from the Night Goddess Church was invited to officiate the wedding for the couple. The Emperor of Atlantis and the 2 Empresses, Emperor Rosal of Intis, the clone he left behind, as well as Renee Tinakal, the leader of the Rose School of Thought, Will Anseton, the president of the Life School of Thought, Cardinal Leonard Mitchell of the Night Goddess Church, and many others. Many prominent figures from the Beander world came, and high-ranking officials from the Orthodox churches and other Beander organizations also sent congratulations. There were also several special guests, Melissa and the Benson family. Hobert told Melissa that Gehrman Sparrow was Klein. As a Beander, Klein's resurrection seemed less difficult to understand. As for the Benson family, Hobert asked Audrey to invite them to the wedding, using a somewhat flimsy reason: "We are colleagues with Sharon." However, Benson was successfully persuaded, and brought his family to attend the wedding. Amidst Hobert and Rosel's cheers, Gehrman publicly kissed the bride. Everyone applauded, only Melissa turned her head away, secretly wiping away tears. After the simple ceremony, it was time for the dining segment that Hobert and Rosel had long awaited. As, elf style, dishes were served one by one, everyone praised the uniquely styled dishes. At Hobert's table, Audrey was still sighing. "I didn't expect this great adventurer to end up with Miss Sharon." In her impression, these two, apart from both not liking to talk nonsense, seemed to have nothing in common. Hobert smiled. "I always thought it was quite suitable." Just as he said this, he looked towards Anju as if he sensed something. Audrey, of course, noticed Hobert's abnormality. "What's wrong?" "The Creator has left Earth." Although this was something he had known for a long time, Hobert still felt a sense of loss. The first Old One to rotate was the Evernight Goddess. It would be 3 years before another Old One would guard Earth. Furs asked curiously, "Where is the Creator going?" "He's going to open up new worlds." Hobert immediately resumed his smile. "Get ready. The Atlantis Empire might be crossing the stars. No one has used Beander power to develop interstellar space before. Now we will do this, and then the Beander will be resown throughout the universe, undergoing a greater degree of separation. Haha, a new era belonging to humanity is about to arrive." The end of the book. The author accidentally made the author's note a paid chapter. Please do not subscribe for now. It will be corrected immediately after the editor comes to work. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.